everybody. Welcome to the 463rd episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big, awesome supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to that secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30-ish minutes of extra podcast entertainment every single week. I just did a off of mine about real life events, about the Batman of Mexico and real life vigilantes. Are they good or are they bad? And I also do classic look backs at comic books and stuff. Not sure what I'll do this week, but if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or four. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. You can also buy the Off of Mind episodes on Patreon, patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Just go to the shop tab and you can buy those exclusive bonus podcasts that you can't hear anywhere else, and you can hear it whenever you want. So it is hot right now. I don't want to have a fan on because that's going to be noisy. I have a window cracked. Hopefully it's not going to get like any noise or anything like that. But what do we have going on this week? We have the movie feature is, oh my God, Evil Dead Burn. Whew. I'm still feeling that movie. I definitely, I'm going to be gushing about that movie. It was something. But yeah, there's just some, it's overall in general, there's some very interesting things about this movie. And I definitely, I can't wait to talk about that. We have the return of Silo. So I am like a week and a half behind or so. So I'm going to talk about the first episode of third season of Silo, and things are crazy there. I don't know what happened to this week, man. I was like so slammed trying to catch up with everything, and I'm actually recording this podcast like later than I usually did. Than when I guess there's a lot to talk about. So I only I'm only on one episode of X-Men 97, so I'm behind on that. We have My Adventures with Superman. We have the final episode of Spider-Noir, and then we'll have comics and news. Man, I'm getting beat up by this. It's like trying to keep up with everything. Let's just jump into the news, because I don't think we should like dilly-dally over anything. The Marvel movies, it's kind of weird. I know I've asked this before. What was the last Marvel movie we had? It feels like it's been a while. Was it? It wasn't Fantastic Four, was it? Was there something else? I miss the days that we used to get like three Marvel movies a year, and then everyone's like, oh, we're on superhero, we're on comic book movie fatigue or whatever, and I don't know. I'm still like bummed about the Supergirl stuff, and what I don't understand how people choose to report on it. Actually, no, I take that back. So it wasn't Supergirl, because every time I see something, see if I saved everything. Every once in a while, I'll like screenshot something that I'll see. But with like, I saw one on Masters of the Universe. And just like the article, Masters of the Universe is projected to lose 140 million to 150 million for Amazon. It's like, does it? The disappointing performance has sparked debate over the franchise fatigue, marketing, and changing audience tastes. Do you think the film deserves better, or was this flop inevitable? It's like there's so many different things that go into these. I don't know, and it just, I don't know why everyone's like so happy when something flops. And I see that like all the time with like Supergirl, where everyone, they just point out every single time. I know I've talked about this. Every single time it's the second week in movies, like the box office drops 60%, 57%. It's like, that's like typical. Like everything, it always drops like that much because everyone sees it the first week. And there are other things that are going on. There's a whole streaming thing. A lot of people they're like, well, I'm just gonna wait till streaming, and instead of paying $15 to $20 for a movie ticket, and then you're tempted to get something to eat, whether it's popcorn or whatever, it gets expensive. And if there's more than one person, so even if you rent it on demand or whatever, you pay $20, that's like the price of one ticket, and you can have your whole family watch it. So I don't know. I just feel there's lots of other factors. One thing that I'm off topic already, but one thing that I thought was odd. I guess it makes sense. But so this week, Obsession comes out on physical media, on Blu-ray or 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, probably DVD. So it comes out on the 14th, and then the 17th, it's going to be streaming on Peacock. And it just seems weird. So it's been available digitally by now. It'll probably be like maybe a couple weeks. It just and now it's like they're doing physical release, and they're gonna make it available to watch. So that makes me wonder: one, is it just that there's not a lot of people subscribing to Peacock? I don't. Or are they looking at it as like, well, maybe this will get people to subscribe to Peacock? I don't know. Or maybe they're like, well, gee, the movie cost $750,000 and it's made, $400 million or whatever. So I think we can go to streaming now. Maybe. But I ordered a physical, so I can't wait. I've been waiting to watch it again and try to get my kid to watch it, but she's like, I don't know. So yeah, but it's just, I keep seeing like Supergirl, like negative stuff. Everyone just it has been refreshing with the Supergirl stuff. I've been seeing a lot of people like, I just watched it. I don't get the hate. And, I am not saying it's a perfect movie, but it's entertaining. And I don't know. I feel like maybe people, I don't know if their expectations are too high, but people complain. I don't know. Which is why I cut out it was like 15 to 20 minutes talking about that wedding last week. And it's like, I don't want to be one of those people that complain about everything, even though there's a lot of good points, but I don't want to be a hypocrite because I feel like I am sometimes, but whatever. So going to Marvel movies, and we have Spider-Man coming up, which I'm super excited for that. But it feels like Spider-Man is the exception. It's weird because it's not a pure Marvel Studios movie. It's Sony kind of working with Marvel. I don't know what the exact relationship. And it's just weird that Sony can make, I was going to say it, they can make awesome, I was going to say another word that starts with an A. They can make awesome Spider-Man movies, but every other comic book attempt movie that they've done has not been great, has not been amazing. So yeah, and I don't know if it's just because it's Spider-Man. I don't know if it's because it's Tom Holland. Maybe it's Zendaya. Maybe it's just all of the above. But they're doing a good job. I saw someone talking about something, and it seems like is it true that like every Spider-Man movie has had like a Marvel cameo? Because we had Happy Hogan. We had Iron Man. Iron Man was he in the first one, right? We had Iron Man. We had Happy. We had Doctor Strange. We're gonna have Hulk and Punisher. So I'm not complaining. I mean, I think that's great. So going back to Marvel, and here I was like, it's like, oh, there's not a lot of news. We're gonna make this fast. No, we're not, because I can't get to the point. The Russos were asked if they plan on continue doing like Marvel movies after Secret Wars. And Anthony Russo, he said that the possibility, and this was like a very like kind of sort of diplomatic answer or whatever, but he said that the possibility remains, but he didn't give like a definitive answer. Probably what it is, there could be two things. It could be, well, maybe they need to negotiate something, because depending on how these do, because Endgame, Infinity War, those did really well. So I would say depending on how like Doomsday and Secret War does, if they're huge, if they're blockbusters, Marvel, Disney, they're gonna be like, hey, we want you guys to do more. The other thing could be also, is there anything for them to do, or maybe they have something planned, but they don't want to spoil it just yet, because everything's like locked under key. So I don't know, we'll see. I would be fine with it, but it's not up to me. The movie I'm kind of, I don't know very much about it. End of Oak Street. So it's Ewan McGregor and Anne Hathaway, and I'm not really sure specifically, but it's like dinosaurs are attacking like in the modern time or something. But it's directed by David Robert Mitchell, who did like It Follows and some. He's mostly done R-rated stuff. His movies that tend to be R-rated, but this is going to be PG-13. So a lot of people are kind of like, oh, really? They're kind of surprised by that. Where I'm a little concerned, the movie is going to be an hour and 39 minutes. So that's really close to that magic 90-minute mark that I kind of use to gauge movies. I feel like the 90-minute movies are more for like the comedies, or just I don't want to say less complex, but I don't know, maybe it's fine because I'm constantly seeing people, oh, it dragged on a little bit. And it's like, are you kidding? It's like, if I'm paying $15 to $20, I want a long movie. Like I saw a report, not a reputable source, I don't remember who it was, but it wasn't like an official one, that, or was it Doomsday, or I don't remember if it was Doomsday or Secret Wars, that it was going to have a 3 hour and 45-minute runtime. I don't know about that. That seems like a bit much, so we'll see. But an hour and 39 minutes, I mean, if it's a movie about survival and, running from dinosaurs and that, yeah, I guess, how much could you do? I don't know. We'll see. But I'm interested in that. That's out in August, I think, August something. I finally saw a trailer for Ice Cream Man, and I don't know. So I think it's Eli Roth, right? Is that who's doing it? So I don't know if it's based off the comic, and I remember seeing something about it where it was mentioned, and I don't remember if it was yes it is or no it's not. But that Ice Cream Man comic that was put out, I don't even remember who wrote it. I have like so many of the issues, and then I just stopped getting them because it seemed kind of creepy and kind of interesting, but I felt, I was like, I need to read this, and then I didn't. The trailer looks kind of creepy, and I'm not really sure what's going on. It's like kids are getting ice cream and they're turning into like killers and violent, and so don't let your kids get ice cream, I guess. I don't know. Welcome to Derry season 2. One of the execs talked about it. So it's like, yeah, they're still working on it. And I think they said they like the direction and, where it's headed, but they're still working on scripts and all that. Because, from what we've been told, it's going to take place in the 1930s, because we saw that like gangster car that was buried. So it'll be interesting, because obviously I want to see more of Dick Halloran, but for us to go backwards, I mean, I guess we can't really go forward, so it makes sense that we would go backwards. It's an interesting choice to go backwards, whatever, but that's fine. The first season was so good, so I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of obsession, so Inde Navarrete, I don't know why I can't say her name. It's like she is practically everywhere now, and congrats to her. But man, doing Obsession, and I just wonder when she tried out for it, or when she was offered, when she got the job, was there like any hesitation, or was it like, yeah, I'll do this, or was it was cool, or just I feel like this. I mean, obviously this movie has changed her life in like massive way, because she was on Superman and Lois. Was that what the show was called? I don't remember, the recent Superman show. And I keep saying she was okay on that. She was a little annoying at times, but that was probably the script, and it didn't necessarily require a whole lot from her. There was sometimes she had to stand up, and so she got to do a little more than some of the other characters sometimes, like that Jordan guy character. So but there's been a lot of talk. I hate to admit it, I'm a little tired of seeing so much of her in my Instagram feed, and it's like all like the entertainment things. There's like all you see all the stuff, which whatever, and there was rumors that she might have tried out or been in talks for doing Heat 2. I don't know about that. She apparently, I don't know if this is official, but I think she said that she's met with X-Men director Jack Schreier. maybe she's going to be an X-Men movie. But see, something like that, she's going to have to be really careful with what she chooses, because, I mean, maybe not, but if you're going to sign on to do, and I guess it doesn't matter, but if you're going to sign on to do a Marvel movie, there's going to be some prior requirements there where it's going to be like a multi-movie thing, which you always hear, the actors like the Marvel money, they get good money off of that. And I don't know if there's any like back end stuff, but when you do a Marvel movie, it's almost like a guarantee that you're going to get work unless you sign up for Eternals. Sorry, but no, I did hear something. Eternals might be showing up in something, and I hope they don't show up just to have them killed, because that would be so mean. But yeah, if she's going to sign on and do Marvel, what kind of requirements is that going to be? Because then, is she going to, especially if you're going to do like X-Men, if they're going to like launch or relaunch the X-Men franchise, there's probably going to be different. It's not just going to be like X-Men 1 and then 2-3 years X-Men 2. They're probably going to try to do other stuff and have, some sort of, flesh out this corner of the Marvel universe, just like they do with all the Avengers characters and everything. So, yeah. But then you look at you look at someone like Tom Holland, like how many Marvel movies, that guy has been in a lot, aside from the Spider-Man movies, he's been in a lot of stuff. You look at, some like Robert Downey Jr. and all these actors, they did these movies and they did a bunch of other stuff as well. So you can make it work, I guess. So we'll have to see. Now, here comes a point. I haven't even thought about it. If she's going to be in the X-Men movie, it's like, who could she play? Because it really depends. And this is where I guess it doesn't really matter how they do it, but it's like, how are they going to do, how are they going to present these characters? Because, like if, let's say we do have like a young Cyclops and Jean Grey or whatever, like let's say Sadie Sink is Jean Grey. We still don't know. But if we have Jean Grey in like her early 20s, and then let's say in the whatever, she's going to be like Kitty Pryde. They're going to be like the same age. And they could do it. That doesn't really matter. So we'll have to see. I don't know who. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is Kitty Pryde, but I don't even know if. I don't know. You tell me. Who do you think she should play? The last bit of news, I'm like, wow, this is cool. Teen Titans Go, new episodes are coming out. I love this show so much. I love the voice actors. They're the nicest people. I've talked to them so many times. I miss talking to them because they're just hilarious. They're just so like, it's like so down to earth. They're just so cool. And yeah, so it's always been a blast talking to them. But a new episode's airing on July 18th on Cartoon Network. So we'll have to see that. And we'll have to see what else we have coming up. But that is going to be the news for the week. With comic books, I read Speed Racer. I don't recall what number it was. David Pepos writing, and what was their artist? Tinko? I don't even know. I don't have it in front of me. It was. I was a little concerned. I'm like, is this going to be like the final issue? Are they just going to, if it's like issue 8 or 12 or something like that, and then maybe like reboot it, not reboot it, but restart it. But there's going to be another issue after this. And what we've seen last couple issues, whatever, Speed got exposed to this gas, and he's basically become like a big jerk, like a raging jerk. And he's just been rude and reckless, and everything is just yelling at everyone. And there's this big race going on, and there is this I think he was a prince. There's always a prince, right? And there's been so many princes in the series, because I mentioned before I'm like rewatching all the episodes on Amazon Prime, and he's just like being a major jerk. And I think they're racing by either through a volcano, by a volcano, because of course they are, because there's so many. Man, they go through the craziest races in this show. And man, he's just being such a jerk. And it gets to the point where Trixie's like, all right, because Trixie, she's like a businesswoman here. She's like a CEO of company. So she's a little different than the original Trixie, but she decides she's going to call some. She calls Racer X to try to get some knocks. How she happens to have his number, I don't know, but Racer X tries talking some sense into Speed, and fists end up being exchanged or whatever. So it's pretty crazy. So yeah, I'm digging that. I think that was it. There's nothing else. At Image, wasn't a whole lot at Image. I think we had Transformers 34. Someday, I need to start reading this. I literally just got a Lego Optimus Prime. I'm like, it's summer. I need something to do over the summer. Even though this past week I've had it this whole week and I haven't even opened it because I'm doing podcast stuff. So yeah, Transformers 34 is out. So I'm not sure what's going on there. We had Mask number 2. So when I read the first issue, as you recall when I talked about it, I wasn't super excited by it. And part of it is I didn't watch the Mask cartoon, and what is either, cause I feel like it was on like an NBC, and it was like early, like maybe 7 o'clock or like one of the earlier shows. So for whatever reason, I didn't watch it. I don't know if it was a syndicated afternoon show, but I never really got into it. I never watched it. And reading that first issue, I was like, I don't know. And the guy that's in charge that we saw like in issues of G.I. Joe, he's kind of a jerk, kind of like, arrogant guy, whatever. But reading this, we see a couple other like mask agents dealing with this incident, stuff that's going on. And things, I'm like, holy crap, things like really, yeah, things get intense here. So I enjoyed this a little more. And, now that we're seeing like a couple, it felt like it kind of jumped a little bit because I'm like, wait, this mask is already happening. There's already other people have been recruited. I'm like, okay. So it was kind of nice seeing, some other people involved in that. Then we had a G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, number 330. So this is by Larry Hama and Paul Pelletier. And I just want to say, every time I read, I want to just draw attention. Paul Pelletier, he's such an amazing artist. I just love just his pencils and everything. So what is happening here, continuing from the last issue, I still don't understand the whole specifics of it because I missed something. So Snake Eyes, he died somehow. I don't know how he came back. But they recorded his memories, his brain waves or whatever. And for some reason, they put him into two people. They put him into this guy. I think his name is Sean. And then, was it Dawn? She the other one? And I guess I don't know if Dr. Mindbender did. I don't know who decided to do this. If the Joes are like, oh yeah, let's do this so we get another ninja on our team. Or if Dr. Mindbender is just being a jerk or whatever and doing that. But Dr. Mindbender is a jerk. Oh, and then somehow Snake Eyes is back. And, so he's got his... And I don't know if his body was cloned, which, when you have... because Storm Shadow came back from the dead. And then we have Serpentor, who's like a Frankenstein of different people. I don't want to go into that. So I don't know if somehow Snake Eyes came back and they put the memories back in. And then he can talk, which I don't understand how he can talk. So that makes me think, was his body cloned so his vocal cords aren't damaged because he's got a new body? I don't know, maybe. So going back to Dr. Mindbender being a jerk, he left in a little, they're calling it like an Easter egg or whatever. And something, I don't know what triggered it. I don't remember, even though it was just last month. But basically... all the people who have been injected with Snake Eyes memories now they're turning on G.I. Joe. And Snake Eyes is out in the cabin with Scarlet. But what's smart, there's a couple people who are with, I think his name's Sean. And they realize we weren't on the G.I. Joe team when these memory things were implanted, so he doesn't know us. So they're hiding behind a tree from him. They're like, hey, there's these... blue ninja robots or something like that. They're like those blue droid. That's G.I. Joe's new squad. It's like we're part of Cobra. So it worked. It was like that easy. And then Sean or whatever his name is, he starts attacking these. He's like brutally attacking these robots. And it's a good thing it was robots, androids, or whatever, because there's like green liquid from their whatever inner workings, and the swords are like all not bloody, but he gets violent. And then so I don't know, Snake Eyes, Timber the wolf is out there, and Snake Eyes like toss him. So we had that. Oh, and then got a little press email Wednesday morning. It was like 10 in the morning. I looked at it. So spoiler for G.I. Joe, but in this issue, I'm going to spoil it because it's out there. There was an appearance by Lara Croft. Lara Croft is going to be in the G.I. Joe universe. That's cool. That's interesting. And this is a Larry Hahn. Because when I first read that, I was like, oh, is this a new G.I. Joe? Because, we got G.I. Joe and Transformer, like, and Mask. Those are all like interlocked and connected. Energon universe, whatever you want to call it. But no, they're bringing Lara into the classic G.I. Joe. Okay, I'm down with that. I think it could work. I mean, you look at there's so many different types of characters in G.I. Joe, so that'll be cool. And then we have World Tree 33, number 21. I need to get caught up on that. Witchblade 23, man. I'm so behind on that also. I feel like there's something else. Oh, there was, I didn't read this. There was an Exquisite Corpses Rascal Randy number 1. So this is like it's by Tyler Boss. So I'm assuming he wrote and drew it. So this is like a spin-off from that. I was hesitant because I'm behind an Exquisite Corpses. I don't know if there's going to be any spoilers from this. So I was just like really hesitant to even open it. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. At Marvel, we had Black Cat number 12, and I have to say, I am really, really enjoying this. This has been a lot of fun. It's G. Willow Wilson is writing, and we have Andres Genolet doing the art, and I'm not the biggest Punisher fan. I mean, he's fine. I just find him a little annoying sometimes because whatever. And plus the fact, he's a killer, and it's like, that's not cool. But what ended up happening is, last issue, spoilers, Punisher, he comes across as like the stray mutt, super skinny dog or whatever like that. And he's just like, whatever, go away. And he's like, okay, whatever, I'll feed you. And then he ends up like feeding him again, and he takes a dog in. So Punisher's got a dog. And then basically Black Cat, she stole a car. I forget whose car it was. She's on the run. She's being chased. She's going down an alley, and the dog's just standing there. She slams on the brakes with it. She ends up hitting it. And she's like, sorry, mutt, stray dog. She keeps going because she's being chased. And she didn't realize it was Punisher's dog. So Punisher is pissed off, and he like practically blew up her apartment and everything like that. So it's like he captures her. They fight for the longest time. He captures her, and still going. And so it's just it's hilarious. But it's not like forced comedy. It's very entertaining. Civil War Unmasked number 3. So, I'm a little hesitant with this series. My whole thing is like, do we really need this or whatever? But what was interesting, and actually like found something out a little bit. So there's talk. This is like shortly after Bill Foster was killed by Ragnarok, and which is horrible. But what I didn't realize when Bill Foster, because I'm reading this, and they're having his funeral, and they got like a huge holdup. I'm like, what is going on here? It's like, why is he still big? And I totally forgot they must have addressed this in the comic originally. But it's like, why is he still big, or why didn't they shrink him or something like that? So, and I looked it up. So the AI overview, whatever, says that his body remained at a giant size because the trauma of the fatal energy blast from the clone of Thor destabilized the Pym particles in his bloodstream. This trapped his physiology in its enlarged state, and his fellow heroes were unable to find a way to shrink him back to normal dimensions. It just seems weird because if you can use Pym particles to shrink a van or shrink whatever, you can't use Pym particles to shrink a dead body. And apparently, to give him a proper resting place, Tony Stark had to purchase 38 adjacent burial plots to accommodate his massive 21-foot tall body. So this deals with Bill's nephew and being ticked off and everything like that. So it was a decent read. Yeah, so I'm fine with that. Daredevil number 4. So Daredevil he was like kind of defeated by Omen, this new character. It's like we don't know what the deal is with this character stealing people's eyes and all that, and what they went with Daredevil. So it was a good issue. We had the Owl in here, which is weird. I don't know if did I talk about that Daredevil novel by Alex Segura? Because Owl was in there a bit. I feel like I should talk about it because I listened to the audiobook and it was good. It was entertaining. Basically, the Kingpin gets killed and the Punisher is like the prime suspect. A Kingpin and a police officer are killed by the Punisher, allegedly. So Matt Murdock, he's like, well, there's no way he would do that. So I'm going to defend him, and things get crazy. So yeah, you should look for that book. It's a novel, and it's Alex Segura. So Alex Segura, super cool guy. He writes a lot of books, and he's written comics. He's written like Poe Dameron. I think he's done at least. I feel like he's done more than one Poe Dameron book, but he's done some Star Wars stuff, and so he's written comics. But the Daredevil, I'm digging it. I'm enjoying this. I'm not sure about the whole Matt Murdock teaching at a community college, and then we got these other detectives, and this one young detective, whippersnapper. Yeah, he kind of makes a big mistake here. So we'll see how that's going to affect things. Then we got Fantastic Four. This is the Future Foundation approved. This is basically the movie Fantastic Four universe, and it's about Shalabal. I don't know. I mean, because there's no Fantastic Four. It's just about her, and I think I could be. Is this by Charles Soule? Yeah, I didn't love it, and I don't know. Maybe I'm not a huge Silver Surfer Shalabal fan, but yeah, you got that. Then there's It's Symbi, number 1. So this actually collects some. I think it was a digital. There's Symbi 1 through 8. It looks like Marvel Mutts and his appearances in Amazing Spider-Man. So Symbi is a little symbiote from when Spider-Man was out in space, and I don't know who's reading these things, because these are, I think they're usually digital first, whatever, then they reprint them. If kids are digging this, that's cool, but for me, I don't know, because I read it. It's just they're goofy stories with this little goofy character in the Marvel universe. Because then we also had this week, Jeff the Landshark Superstar, and it's the same thing. Who's reading these Jeff comics? I just like the Jeff comics because 1, there's a Gwenpool connection, but 2, because Kelly Thompson is responsible and is writing most of the Jeff comics. And I don't know why I did it, but they announced the Jeff the Landshark action figure from the Marvel Rivals line. It's coming out in August, and I pre-ordered one. And it's like crazy because they're like $30 figures. It's like, do I really need a Jeff the Landshark figure? Apparently I do. So, I don't know. But the Jeff comics, the Jeff comics are kind of cute because Jeff is cute. I prefer Jeff. Sorry, Symbi. I prefer Jeff over Symbi. But it's, they're just silly. and I hope people are buying this. If people are digging this, and if it's kids
or I don't know who. I'm happy that someone's enjoying these because we need people to read these. And there's this like jellyfish or something that's hanging out with Jeff. Must have missed that. I forgot his name. We got Sorcerer Supreme number 8. I'm still not reading that. I feel like I should. I have no idea what I'm missing out on there. There's Star Wars Shadow of Maul number 5. Uncanny X-Men number 31. So I read this. This is I'm not super crazy about this one, but we have the kids are at a dance and aliens are attacking. There's these one aliens and there's brood. So it's like, what's going on? But it's like really weird because as the X-Men here are like chaperoning. So like Gambit's in there, Jubilee and Wolverine, whatever, and Gambit's like talking to him. He's like, wow, man. It's like I really love these kids. I never thought that would happen, and it's like, okay, we're at 30 issues, and he's become so attached to these kids, and that's the thing. I mean, the problem is I'm not attached to these kids. That's why I struggle with this series because I don't care about these kids. There's really hasn't been anything that has kind of won me over, and admittedly, I'm not really giving them a fair chance or whatever. So yeah, but I read this and it was interesting with this. I don't know what's going on with this alien invasion, so things are not going so well. Then there's Wolverine 23. So Wolverine, he's been losing his healing factor, and it cures me. Like I remember, it must have been 2 or 3 months ago. I'm complaining. I was like, oh, Wolverine broke his claws. And then the next issue, his claws are still broken. Why is his claws still broken? They should grow. This is so, it's like, don't they know anything? So his claws haven't grown because something's going on with his healing factor. Someone is like stealing his healing factor. And we find out, because he goes to Cecilia Reyes, which I think it's cool that, they're using her. She's a mutant character who's a doctor. And, her powers is she can make a force field. So not the most practical thing, but it does come in handy whenever she's around, it seems like. Basically, someone put nanobots inside Wolverine to steal his... Somehow it's like... like transmitting his healing factor to someone else. And then here comes Taskmaster, Master of Tasks, and he's got his healing power and claws. And it's like, wait, actually, I don't know if he's got claws. But maybe. No, because I think he was using like a sai. So they're fighting, and Wolverine is just like so weak. He's got like almost no healing factor, and Taskmaster's not someone to mess around with. So yeah, it's but then it's like, wait, there's someone else too. So it's like Wolverine's like, damn it, he's got to deal with something else, and yeah, it's things aren't going too well for him. So yeah, it's but it's kind of silly. And then the last Marvel is X-Men 97 number 2, and I didn't love the first issue, and there's just something weird about this. And thank goodness they're kind of behind a little bit because it's weird. I feel like with the first one, I felt like it didn't take place like during. It was like before the series or something like that. So this seems to be taking place like during season 2, because the second episode, which I will talk about in a bit, is dealing with like X-Force, and they're here, and some of the events that happen in the second episode are in this issue. So it's like, you're not just going to be, I mean, they're not just adapting the show, because we don't need that. I mean, if you're going to do it, do extra stuff. So I started, and I was just like, yeah, I ended up not fully reading it. I just couldn't really get into it. Over at DC, we have Absolute Batman, number 22. And I'm a little annoyed with Facebook with, I don't remember who it was, but something came up and like spoiled what happens in this, or like some development in this. I don't know if it was, every once in a while I get like either comic book or CBR, it's like you always get these like suggested pages. Like, I don't follow a whole lot of pages. So spoiler, because I'm assuming it's out there, and if you're listening, so if not, cover your ears or skip forward a minute or two. I don't even know if that much. But I saw things like Harley Quinn is now Joker's daughter. And I'm just like, wait, what? I was like, that's like messed up. And whoever this outlet was, obviously that's super clickbaity, because it's like that's disgusting. You can't do that. So obviously, if we're in the absolute universe, you can do whatever you want. You can be as shake things up, twist things around, whatever, because that's the whole point. Make it as crazy as possible. And again, I'm okay with that. I applaud that, but don't just do crazy things just to do crazy things. The other thing is, so I guess that'll be it for the spoiler part. In case you skip forward, you're like, is it safe? It is safe now, but you're not going to know unless you're hearing this part. But we also, what I realized, and I must have missed issues, because I don't even recall when Harley Quinn first appeared in Absolute Batman. I'm like, where the heck did she come from? And it's like all of a sudden she knows, Batman's identity. It's almost like everyone knows Batman's identity practically. So she's in there. But what we get here is we kind of get her backstory. So I'm like, okay, maybe I didn't miss as much as I thought. It's like here, now we're finding some things out. And there's still, Batman dealing with because all the police are after him because they think he killed Commissioner Gordon. And then there's all the Robins in their mech suits are chasing him, which is kind of annoying, but yeah, so we got all that stuff. And then we had Absolute Catwoman. So number 2 came out this week. And this is when the first issue came out. Somehow I missed it. And then I was like, oh, I didn't read that. I need to check that out. And then I was like, oh, it's just a one shot, so maybe it's not that big of a deal. Because we've seen Selena Kyle in pages of Absolute Batman. So I'm like, okay, whatever. And then as I was like, wait, there's an issue 2. It wasn't a one shot. I'm like, oh crap. I'm like, fine. Let me see the first issue. Let me read that. Read this. So I read issues 1 and 2. It's fine. It's good. As I'm reading these, part of me is like, what is making this different from regular Catwoman? And again, don't just do crazy things just because you got Absolute slapped on the cover. But at the same time, I don't need another version of a character if it's just going to be the same stuff, because it's like, what's the point? There's a regular Catwoman comic that I was enjoying, and then I just fell behind, and I'm just like, well, because of my issues with DC Comics, I'm like, well, I missed out on it. I'm not going to get caught up. So as I'm reading this, it's interesting what I don't understand, and maybe I missed something in regular Absolute Batman, but it's like Selena's got like all this. She's got like a whole network. She's got all this tech, all this equipment. She's got this. Now I don't remember. She's got this like AI. Is it Jonesy? That like helps her, is like her virtual assistant type of thing. And it's like, where did she get all this stuff? Because we see like her story, like I think it was in the first issue, whatever, where like her being in a foster, home. The dad was like big jerk and horrible and stuff like that. So she must have stole money to get her fortune, and then started collecting, buying, and because she even has like a cat cave, as she calls it. So I'm just like, where did she get all this stuff from? So I don't know. And then, but what I do appreciate, we have Holly Robinson. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Got that connection. Holly comes to visit Selena on her birthday. This was in the last issue, and she's trying to get Selena to help her in this job that she took, but she's like, no, because I'm ready to like kind of call it. But then Holly ends up getting kidnapped, and there's like all this stuff happening. And when we see the identity of the main person who kidnapped her, it's like, wait, what? Okay, so there's a slight little twist there. So it's interesting, but again, it's like, why? What's going on here? And then we had Furia of Firestorm number 4. I'm not reading that. I'm just not a big Firestorm fan. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Nothing against the character, but I don't know. And I think my problem is how there's been like kind of different versions or different people who are Firestorm. So it's like wait, who's there? No. Then there's a Barbara Gordon breakout. I don't remember what number this was, but this was. Now here's the thing. This happens to me a lot when I'm reading comics. Like there's points where I'm especially like right before just the day I'm recording. If I'm still trying to read comics, this is the problem with me reading DC Comics last minute, because I get early access to everything else, so I can read those. It's easier to find time to read those. But with DC Comics, I'm literally reading these the day that I'm going to record. And it never fails where I start getting tired, from not getting enough sleep or whatever. And I don't think it's like the comics are putting me to sleep, but then it's like hard for me to stay focused, and it doesn't quite hold my attention. And because I really like Barbara Gordon as a character, and the idea of her being locked up as Barbara Gordon in jail, that's kind of interesting, because she can't just completely cut loose and be, Batgirl, because that would be a little suspicious, but she's been holding her own. But as I'm reading this, I'm just like, yeah, she's locked up. People are giving her a hard time. It's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So I don't even remember how this issue ends. I'm pretty sure I finished it. Then that was all I read, because there was Green Lantern Corps number 18, so I have no idea what's going on there. Supergirl number 15. I probably should have read that. Then there's Emperor Aquaman. I have no idea why Aquaman's an emperor. Last I know, it's like wasn't he going to like some other dimension through like a water portal or something like that? I don't even know if that's still the case. Oh, I did. I started reading Clayface. So Clayface Celebrity Dirt number 1. It's like, oh, I saw an ad. Maybe it was when I was reading Absolute Batman or Absolute Catwoman. There's I don't know if it was a preview or an ad, but so it's written by Jude Ellison, and I think it said like acclaimed writer or something. I was like, I don't know who this is, because I don't know a lot about everything, and I was like, well, maybe I should check this out. And it makes sense that we're going to see some Clayface stuff, because when the movie comes out, it makes sense. You want to have a trade paperback, so hopefully people will go and buy some stuff. I start reading it, and it's Clayface. It's like I'm just like, I don't care about Clayface. I mean I probably should give it another chance. We'll see, because I just didn't read it. And then that was it. Then there's Bleeding Hearts number 6, whatever. I'm not sure what that is. That is all I read. That is all that I know of. That is all the comics for the week.
All right, now Spider-Noir Season 1, Episode 8, The Man in the Mask. So this is the final episode of the season. Obviously we could get more, unless Ben loses his powers. I don't think I said it, but because I'm always going on, because a recent Off in Mind that I did, it's like how Marvel's just like treating Ben Reilly like garbage, whatever. And you could say, oh, but in Spider-Noir they decided to call him Ben Reilly instead of Peter Parker. So, but I feel like no, they keep doing this. It's almost like they want us to forget that Ben Reilly was Scarlet Spider. I don't know why. When they give the Scarlet Spider name to Kane, why, I don't know. And then, they change Ben's name to Chasm, or King Chasm. And even here, it's like, it's not really Ben Reilly. It's just Peter Parker. He decided to use a different name. I don't know. I just feel like they're trying to make us forget about the true Ben Reilly. With this episode, I have to say, I as I've been watching it, I'm like, this feels like, this is the last episode. And it kind of feels like it's dragging on. And I don't know if it was just me and this week, and it's just like I want to, watch everything, finish everything, so I could record and try to have some downtime. But then I look up the IMDb rating at the score, and I was like, what? This is like the highest rated episode. I'm like, really? It's like, I didn't think this was the best one, but I don't know if it's just me being whatever, not in a good mood, whatever. So, final episode, The Man in the Mask. It's night, it's raining. There's the thugs, whatever, sit in the car laden, and I realized, because I saw
either someone called him or is it closed caption or something like that. So his name is Layden. I started calling him Drayden at some point. So hopefully it hasn't been confusing. So Layden, he's Megawatt, the electricity guy. He is such an annoying character, and I know that's a point, but it's like, oh my gosh. So he's going on about, he's like, look at all those people out there. He's like, I used to be like them, lost, blind. They don't even know it. And Flint's like, and it's like, thank you, Flint. He's like, do you ever shut up? And Layden goes on about some more stuff. And, they're talking about like the powers, and he says that, he's only getting stronger and stuff like that. In the club, Silvermane and Cat are sitting at like in a booth. He's eating, I think he's like eating like pistachios, whatever. He talks about being able to self-reflect, because he's like, if she knew where he grew up, the hunger, the scarcity, he lost 2 brothers before he was even born. And, it was madness what he experienced. And he's like, do you know the difference between me and the countless other degenerates that came out of that time? He's like, a gambler's heart. Simple as that. It's not strength or guile or ruthlessness. It's just courage and relentlessness. He's like, it was never enough. He's like, I could never stop, never get comfortable. And he like takes her hand. He's like, that's my advice to you. And he like kisses it. So it's like, does he care about her? It seems like it, because sometimes he's like mean to her. And she's like, never get comfortable. And he's like, never be satisfied. Don't accept what you're given, because nobody is going to give you what you want. They're going to give you what they want to give you for their own reasons. And then he like scoffs. He's like, that's enough of that. Story time's over. He's like, need to take a leak. So she gets up and she goes to the phone and she calls someone. She's like, it's Kat. She's like, I need to see you. She waits at the old theater. Janet comes up behind her. And Kat's like, thank God. It's like, I was worried you weren't going to. And then slap. Janet's like, that's for Ben. And, Kat was caught off guard. She's like, I deserve that. And then slap on the other side. She's like, and that's for me. She's like, Ben put everything on the line for you, and you use that to betray him. It's like, that doctor cut him to pieces. And Kat's like, I swear I didn't know that she was going to hurt him. Janet scoffs. And Kat's like, I thought it was for the best. Ben told me himself that he didn't want to be that. And then she like stops. And Janet's like, oh, so now you care about keeping a secret? Telling Faber about Ben wasn't your call to make. And Kat's like, I can make it up to him. And Janet's like, oh, that's rich, honey. And she's like, no, I promise. You just have to trust me. Janet's like, yeah, I already tried that. She's like, you're a liar, a manipulator. And she's like, I did it for love. And she's like, Janet's like, whose love? Kat's like, Flint. But Ben is a good man. I promise I can make it up to him. And Janet's like, how? And she's like, if he gives me the antidote, I can inject Flint and Dirk with it. I guess that's his name, Dirk. It's like, I can get close to them without causing any suspicion. And it's not your choice to make. Ben can decide for himself. So the dudes are still in the car. Layden is still talking. And he says to Flint, he's like, you know what I've been thinking? And he's like, who asked you? He's like, see, there's a problem. Why are we running errands for this old man when we're the ones with all the power? What do we need him for? And Flint's like, I suppose you don't believe in loyalty? And Layden like chuckles. He's like, loyalty? What you call loyalty, I call manipulation. What does serving Silvermane get us versus what it gets him, huh? It's like, how loyal would he be to you if you didn't follow his orders? You know what? Don't answer that. We'll just ask your old pal Winston. Oh, wait, we can't. He's dead. Then Flint sees Janet and he knows that, he's like, oh, wait, there's his secretary. So inside, she finds Frankie, the kid. He's like trying to pick this like little like lockbox or whatever. And he is like, where you been? People's been looking for you. So she corrects his English. It's not people's, whatever. And then she's like, which people? And Frankie's like, Robbie. It's like, Ben's over at his place. Robbie says, he been running through the ringer. And she's like, he has been, because she's trying to teach him like English and math and stuff like that. He has been. And he's like, what? The phone rings, and it's Hank from the police station. He's like, you didn't hear it from me, but your boss, Riley, he's in hot water. It's like, I don't know what he's done, but every precinct in the city is looking for the guy. It's like, that's coming straight from the mayor. So she heads out to Robbie's, not realizing that the guys are watching. So Layden points. He's like, that, is someone in a rush to meet someone. So she arrives at Robbie. Ben's like getting dressed. Robbie tells her that he still doesn't have his powers back and he needs more rest. Janet tells Ben that he looks like a banana, like an overripe banana. The bruises are settling in. Then she's like, listen, I have to tell you something. She's like, Kat asked me to meet her. And Ben's like, what? When? This evening, she wants you to give her the antidote so she can inject Flint and the other one, Layden. She said that she can get close enough and they wouldn't see it coming. Robbie like scoffs. And Ben's like, I don't know. It's not such a bad idea. And she's like, how many times did Lonnie hit you in the head? It's like, the woman just finished betraying you. And he's like, and why do you think she did? And she says, for Flint. She told me herself. He's like, that's right. She wants to save Flint. If she believes this will help her, you can bet she'll do it. Then there's a solid knock at the door. Robbie's like, who is it? And the man's like, little pigs, little pigs. So Ben's like, that's Layden. So Robbie asks what they're doing there. So Ben, he just, motions to open the door. So Layden and Flint walk in. Flint tells Ben he looks like poop. Robbie reaches for something like on the desk, and Layden asks Ben, he's like, it seems like I met you before. And Ben reminds him that he sang him the acting song at Silvermane's penthouse. He's like, what, you didn't like it? Layden's like, no. He's like, before that. And Ben's like, maybe you slept with the wrong guy's wife. And Flint's like, what the hell happened to you? Because, he's bruised up or whatever. And Ben's like, I took pictures of the right woman's husband. And then Robbie asks, what does he want? Flint points to Ben and says, him. He's like, on your feet, boss wants to talk to you. He's like, talk to me, or just talk to me. I want to know what kind of goodbye I should give my friends. So Layden's like, he's like, I don't think you need to divvy up you 3 worldly possessions just yet. Now get up. So Robbie has the antidote syringes, and he puts them in Ben's coat, and Ben's like watches him do that. So he's like, all right. It's like, I'm coming. Just want to grab my coat first. And but it's like, so he's gonna take the antidote in his jacket. It's like they're not gonna frisk him to check if he's got any guns or any weapons or anything like that. It's like, oh gee, you got these syringes. What's this for? Robbie's like, handing him the coat. Ben's reaching for it, but then Layden grabs Ben. He's like, oh, don't worry, we'll keep you nice and toasty. Which seems weird because it's like it was raining outside and everything, so they're not gonna let him take his jacket when it's like literally right there. So Ben kind of gives Robbie a look, and he's like escorted out. But it's probably, I would say it's probably for the best, because they would probably find it on him. At the club, Ben stares at Kat. She's sitting next to Silvermane, and Silvermane's like, hey, Riley. He's like, are you listening to me? And he's like, the thing is, you could have just asked. I thought we were friends. He's like, of course we are, but it is a matter of some urgency. I can't have your friend running around the city neutralizing my advantages. So I'll kindly ask you to lift the phone and call your spider friend. And they're all staring at him. He's just sitting there smoking. And he's like, nah, I don't think I will. And Silvermane's like, excuse me? And Ben's like, I'm not in the mood to talk to the spider. It's like, the truth is, he's kind of hard to talk to, especially on the phone. It's like, hey, buddy, can you remove the mask so a guy can actually hear? And Silvermane's like, is this some kind of a joke? Is like a piece of humor I'm not grasping? And Ben's like, no, I mean it. I generally can't understand half of what comes out of his mouth. Well, you've seen him. He wears a stupid sock on his head. And Silvermane's like, I told you when we first met that your mouth would get you killed one day. Today might just be that day. And Ben's like, nah. It's like, you need me. This is negotiation. You need the spider. Ipso facto, you need me. Res ipso lector. They're like, well, I mean, I don't speak Latin. Besides, word on the street is Mayor Morris is interested in Senor Spider as well. So, gee whiz, deep pockets on all sides. What's a down on his luck private investigator to do? So Silvermane looks at Cat in disbelief and he laughs. He's like, okay then, $500. And Ben's like, oh, the number I'm thinking of starts with a 5, but it don't end with 100. And it's weird because every once in a while Nicolas Cage puts in his Nicolas Cageisms in there. And he's like, careful, my friend. You want me to pay you, but you want to continue living after the fact? He's like, and that's exactly right. I want to live, as in live, and that costs money. At first, I was thinking Santorini, and Kat gives him a surprised look. It's like, but no, now I'm thinking France. Feels romantic and safe, even for a guy with a mouth like mine. And Silvermane's like, 1,000. Ben's like, you wouldn't even miss it if I said 10. He's like, it's a principle, fella. Like you say, we're negotiating. Ben's like, 3. Silvermane's like, 2. And Ben's like, deal. I was like, okay, now that that's settled, Kat, be a diamond and pour Mr. Byrne and myself a glass of the green spot. So Silvermane's like, get this man a telephone. When a guy puts a phone in front of him, and as Ben starts, dialing, he's like, I would have done it for one. And Silvermane's like, I would have happily paid you 10. And Ben laughs. He's like, it's ringing. He's like, yeah, hi, it's Ben. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry to call so late. What? You did what? He laughs. He's like, that's fantastic. Okay, well, listen, I'm here with Silvermane. And Silvermane's like, tell him no hard feelings about the other day. Bygones should be allowed to be themselves. Tell him. And Ben's like, he says he wants you to know that there are no hard feelings about the other day. He's like, I tell him the bygones things. And that bygones should be allowed to be something. And Cat arrives with drinks. He's like, tell him I just want to have a little chat. He just wants to have a little chat. I tell him. And Ben gets mad. He's like, oh, you know what? Tell me yourself. He hands him the phone. He's like, wait, what are you doing? So Silvermane takes one, Mr. Spider, sir. So it's Robbie trying to imitate the Spider. He's like, he's like, well, that is something to consider in regard to all heretofore relevant ascertained information. Janet hits him. She's like, why the hell are you talking like that? He's like, I'm doing Ben. He's like, the life of Ben Reilly and what else? I don't want you to overestimate the importance of that relationship. Silvermane says something. He's like, okay, fair enough. I'll be there. Robbie hangs up. Janet's like, what? And he's like, he wants the antidote, but he wants the Spider to bring it to him. So Silvermane hangs up and tells Ben that he's on his way. And Ben's like, great. He's like, and now, sir, if you don't mind, I'll take my 2 G's, or as they say in France, I'll have my Cecil B. Blah, blah, blah. He says something in French. And he's like, oh, good one. But the money was for delivery of the Spider and not for the phone call. And Ben's like, oh, all right, well, in that case, how about another round? He strains the stand. He's like, what else you got back there that normal people can't afford? How about something American this time? Maybe some bourbon? Or is that not fancy enough for you? Flint mutters, he's like, 3-1. The Spider doesn't show. Layden says that he'd be wise not to, that's for sure. And Kat says, she says, Silvermane, she's like, why do you want the Spider anyways? It's like a little over the hill, don't you think? And Ben's like, I don't know. I think he looks remarkably fit. Besides, he handled that soft clown no problem. And he's pointing at Layden. Layden just Rrr. So Silvermane asks if he thinks the Spider would have any interest in working for him. And, because he wouldn't hold it against him that, he backed the wrong horse. And Ben's like, I haven't the faintest idea. The Spider tends to do what the Spider wants to do. He's actually extremely annoying. As Ben is pouring drinks, Kat is like, what the hell is going on? And he says that he's earning himself some travel money. He says he'd invite her to join him, but they know how that goes. And she says that she could have told Silvermane that he's a Spider. And he says that he could have told him that she's his rat. He still can. And she's like, well, I guess we got each other by the throats. And then he imitates a cat, like, meow. And even, he does the cat claw. You just couldn't see me do it. Silvermane tells Flint and Layden, when the Spider comes, the 2 of them are not to make a move until he says so. So, Layden's still staring at Ben. He's like, I swear, I know that guy somewhere. Silvermane tells him, pay attention. He's like, nothing happens till he gives the go-ahead. He's like, understood? So Layden's like, aye, aye, mon capitan. So Kat asks Ben if he's going to give her the antidote. And, because he's the perfect distraction. She can do it right now. And he's like, funny thing is, he's like, I believe you, but I don't have it. And she's like, are you serious? Then Silvermane's like, hey, he's like, what are you 2 yammering on about? And he's like, oh, I was just telling Kat about the French island where I intend to spend the traveling money that you're about to pay me. Beautiful sandy beaches, lush valleys, hilltop villages. Silvermane's like, sounds dull. And Ben's like, agreed. Perfect place to be alone. And he's like, cheers. They clink glasses. And Layden claps his hands. He's like, that's where I know you from, France. And Ben's like, I don't have a clue what you're talking about, buddy. And I'm a detective, so buzz off. He's like, oh no. No. I'm certain of it. Monsieur Argonon, whatever. It's like, you're the fellow that saved us in that POW camp. And then Silvermane's like, hold on. You 2 know each other? And Layden's like, yeah, Flint knows him too. And Ben's like, you guys are drunk. Flint's like, never touched the stuff in my life. So Silvermane's like, let me get this straight. Our private detective friend here was in the same POW camp as the two of you? Layden's like, Lonnie too, and Addison. So Silvermane's like, in other words, this man was at the site where all of you got experimented on, and this very same man just happens to be best friends with the Spider? It's like, I think the Spider hasn't walked through that door yet because he's already sitting right here at my table. So Ben's like, trying to think what to say. He's like, you guys are grasping at straws. It's like, yeah, that's right. I mean, this isn't some grand conspiracy. The reason why I'm chummy with Le Spider is because I saved his ass at Mr. Argonaut. And Silverman's like, is that so? And like, he, for some reason, he's like, gulp. And Ben's like, it is so. Silvermane gives Ben like a sideways smirk for a bit. And he's like, what is this, a parlor trick? You're going to focus your mind, stick your finger in your ear, and peer into my soul? And Silvermane's like, no, I don't think we'll be needing any magic. Save that for the children's birthday parties. And Ben's like, well then, what do you want? You want to check my pockets for unmarked bills? Here, I'll make it easy for you. I got a nickel and not one, but count them, 2 sticks of gum. So Silvermane laughs. He's like, you're a cool customer, but here's the thing. I'm a bit like you, a detective. I watch, I listen, I keep track of things. He asks Kat for another drink. Then Silvermane continues when she's gone. And just like you, the only person that I am truly loyal to is me. So if I know a way to find out decisively whether or not you, Ben Reilly, are the Spider, I'll do it no matter the consequences. Do you understand what I'm saying? He's like, I can't say that I do. Kat comes back and Silvermane orders her to sit. He says that the way he sees it, Ben Reilly's a private dick who doesn't care about anyone except for himself. One thing he knows about Spider is he cares. He's never been passive about innocent deaths, not on his watch. Not if there's anything he can do about it. Ben's like, I wouldn't know about it. Silvermane's like, I would. He asks Kat for her gun, and she like stares at him. And he's like, the one you think nobody knows about. So she pulls a gun like out of her garter belt. And he's like, I'm convinced, but I'm not certain. And Ben's like, sure, I'm convinced we're all gonna die, but there's only one way to be certain. So Silvermane laughs. He's like, exactly, you're quite clever. Now, I look around this room, I see a bunch of tough elements, gangsters, mobsters, hardened criminals. Not exactly the type that Spider would lose any sleep over, right? But there's one innocent bystander. He grabs Kat's hand and like Flint gets a little anxious. One person that the Spider simply could not sit back and allow to die. And she's like, cut it out. I'm not in the mood. And Silvermane's like, well, I wouldn't think you would be. She's like, I mean it. It's not funny. And Silvermane's like, far from it. It's tragic if we lose you. Bad for business. Bad for my heart. Ben like looks around. Layden's kind of eager to see what happens. Ben's like under table. He's trying to flick his wrist. He's got no webbing. And Silvermane's like, you know how much you bring me joy? It's like, but the way I see it, this is the only way I can be certain. And she's like, let go of me, Finn, now. And like Flint like clenches his fist. Layden says, this is the best damn show in town. And Silvermane's like, so if I kill her and you're just Ben Reilly, a clever private investigator who doesn't care about anybody but himself, or you really are the Spider and you'll stop me before I pull this trigger. He's like, flick, flick, trying to snap his wrist. Nothing. Flint clenches his fist like more. It's like, Kat's like, listen, he's not going to save me. And it's not because he's a bad man. Silvermane's like, so why then? She's like, because I broke his heart. And Ben's like, ugh. He like scoffs. Layden's like laughs. And Silvermane's like, why'd you do that? And she's like, you know why. And he's like, I want to hear you say it. She looks at Flint. Because I'm in love with Flint. I'm in love with him, and I wanted to save him, and I didn't care who I hurt in the process. Flick, flick. Silvermane like looks over at Ben. He's like, well, at least she admits it. And Kat's like, that's right. I admit it. I'm tired of hiding, and I'm tired of lying. You want the rest of it? And he's like, don't. She's like, I did it because I wanted to save Flint, and I wanted to kill you desperately. And then Silvermane's like, so you're the one who hired Addison? She's like, yes. You're the one who told the mayor about my booze delivery? Yes. You're my Judas? That's right. So go ahead and kill me, but do it because you want me dead, not because you think it'll prove something about Ben. The only thing he's guilty of is being in way over his head. And Silvermane's like, you see, Riley, That's the difference between convinced and certain. He points a gun to her head. Flint like lunges like, no. But the Spider's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, did I come at a bad time? So the Spider's standing like on the other side of the club, like by the bar. Ben's like, not at all. Silvermane was just teaching us a lesson about how to kill a defenseless woman. And then to Ben, Silvermane's like, sorry about that. And he's like, go to hell. Silvermane stands. He's like, this is a pleasant surprise. And the Spider is like, well, that's close enough for my taste. So Cat grabs her gun off the table. And the Spider's like, how's it going, Riley? And Ben's like, peachy. And then the Spider's like, you wanted me to come? So I came. What do you want? And Silvermane's like, I like that. Straight to the point. Let's talk business. I don't believe for a second you're working for the mayor. You're too bright and he's too dumb. So why don't you come work for me? You can't beat us. Why not join us? And the Spider's like, who says I can't beat you? Layden's like, I do for one. Flint says, he's like, I'll second that. And the Spider's like, I'm sorry. Are you forgetting that I'm the Spider and I can kick both your asses? He's like getting whatever, Nick Cage isms. And Ben's like, actually, not to overstep, but I suggest you hear Mr. Burn out. And the Spider's like, I'm sorry, you want me to listen to Silvermane? And Ben's like, I'm merely saying, if we're being honest, you're not as young as you once were. And the Spider's like, I'm actually in great shape. Yeah, fit as a fiddle. Downright spry. And Ben's like, I'm merely suggesting that you might not want to leap headlong into a confrontation so soon after your big battle with Lonnie Lincoln. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, you might want to take a break, rest up. So why don't you give him the antidote and the Silvermane's like, give him my 2 G's and we can all be on our merry ways. And Silvermane's like, yeah. And then, stupid Layden, he's like, my, oh my, how interesting. So many plot lines to follow. Then a bunch of Silvermane's men come in. They're like, how about some more? So they found Janet skulking around outside. So she apologizes to Ben. And one dude's like, and look what she had on her. Holds up a pouch with some vials. Ben sighs. The Spider's like, well, what? You wanted me to just bring the stuff in here? Seemed dumb. And Ben's like, you're right. This is much better. So Layden walks over, takes the pouch. He's like, so this is what all the fuss is about, huh? Silvermane tells him to bring it here. Layden's like, yeah. Just give me 1 second here. He has the needle out. Shunk, jabs into Spider's shoulder. He grunts, falls to his knees. And Silvermane's like, why the hell did you do that? Layden says that he just wanted to see if it worked. He shocks the Spider. He's like, yep, seemed like it does. And then Silvermane's like, give it here, buddy. And Layden's like, this? He's like, yeah, no games. But he's like, but what if I wanted to play a game? And let's call it, why should I? Silvermane's like, I'm not in the business of explaining myself. Not to you, not to anybody. Now hand it over. He's like, the Spider's no threat now. So I'm wondering, why is it that you're so keen on having whatever's in these syringes? You see, I think it's because you want to control us. You want to have power over us. And then Silvermane's like, Flint, take care of this guy for me. And Layden's like, otherwise, why don't I just smash these last 2 vials? We'll just call it a day. Silvermane's like, Flint, you're still with me, son? You both are. You know I would never touch hair on her head. You know what to do. And Layden's like, does he? Now, his girlfriend, she knew what to do. And the Flint's like, you just didn't have the balls. And Flint's like, careful. Ben's still trying to flick his wrist. He's like, I'm not your friend. He's not even your boss. He's your puppet master, pulling on your strings and making you dance. But why let him? He's not special. He's just an old man in an expensive suit, fighting to stay relevant. Silvermane's like, consider your words carefully, my boy. They may be your last. Layden pulls up the Spider. He's like, now, let's see who's behind the mask. Ben keeps trying to get his webs to work. And then Flint actually helps, sits him up in a bar. They take off the mask. It's Robbie. And they're like, what the hell? Flint's like, the reporter? Layden pushes him over to the bar. Ben's web finally works. He webs the antidote, pulls it to him, and then he webs Flint to the wall by the hand. So there goes his secret identity. Layden starts to swear in surprise, and then Ben webs his face, pulls him over a counter. He hits the table and falls on the floor. So Silvermane's men start shooting with like machine guns. Ben webs the ceiling like swings. Janet tries to, she's down by Robbie, tries to wake him up. Kat shoots one of the shooters, the first guy shooting. Silvermane, he starts walking away. Kat's like pointing like she's gonna, try to shoot him. I thought she was actually shooting, but then it was like another guy shooting. So she has to duck because like Flint, he like tells her, he's like, duck. And then Ben webs him since, Flint's, he's stuck against the wall, can't do anything. There's another shooter. Ben kicks a chair, like to trip him and punch him, but then Flint breaks free. Janet tries warning him, but then Flint socks him in the jaw. Layden's up as well. He starts to zap Ben, and then he tosses him like over the bar. And he lands by Robbie and Janet. He asks if Robbie's okay. Robbie does a thumbs up and then groans. He's like, I get why you don't like this job. So Layden and Flint are getting ready to finish them, like taking off their suit jackets or whatever. Then the Spider leaps up onto the bar top. Hi, fellas. Can I get you a drink? He webs a bottle. Whoosh, makes it hit Flint in the head. They start fighting. Both grab him. They end up throwing him out the window onto the streets. Silvermane, he's like walking the back corridors. I guess he's going to go out the back or something like that. Kat's following him. Ben almost gets hit by a car, but he shoots a web and pulls himself up. Silvermane makes it to like a service elevator. He's going to go down. Spider swings. He almost like swings like a block away. Layden, Flint, they're like out in the streets, coming after him. Then they see him up like on the elevated like tracks, the subway tracks or whatever. So the Spider pulls out a syringe and he's like, all right, here goes nothing. He leaps down on top of a car that's driving. Layden like laughs. He and Flint start walking towards the car. Flint smashes the front end of the car with like a big solid fist. The car flips up. Spider goes flying over Layden. There's more fighting, zapping. Spider tries injecting Layden, but then he holds his wrists and then the syringe just bursts. And Spider's like, oh no. So now there's only one. Layden grabs him from behind. Flint punches him, but then Spider kicks him with both feet. He webs a passing car, pulls them up, and then they hit a big electronic sign, and there's a big zap. They fall. There's all these sparks. They land on the sidewalk. So they're almost like 2 stories up. Spider groans. Layden gets up, starts walking away. It's where's he going? Flint's still standing by the street. He walks towards the Spider. Spider webs 2 parked cars on either side of him. He's pulling, and Flint kind of looks at him. He pulls and he smashes Flint in between the two. Push! Big cloud of sand. So Ben falls back in exhaustion. Then Layden's he's kind of hiding behind another car, moaning, and then it looks like his zappy power is going out. So he's that happened to Ben. So I guess it could happen to them. She reaches a service elevator. She comes out. She's searching for Silvermane. It's almost like a storeroom. There's all this, I don't know, furniture and vases and stuff or whatever. And of course, there's lots of mirrors. It's all this or some sort of reflective stuff to make it more confusing. He kind of pops out and she shoots. He's like, after all I did for you. But she ended up shooting a mirror. It's it breaks my heart that you'd betray me like that. And she's like, no, it breaks your heart that you didn't see it was me. And he kind of cackles. He's like, is this because of that dentist? You'd never had been happy with him. Filling cavities in some New Jersey suburb. I saved your life when I got rid of him. She shoots again. Nothing. She hits another mirror. First, the dentist, then Flint. You sure can pick them, can't you? And she's like, that's right. I can pick my men. I can pick my dresses, and I can pick my songs. He laughs again. She shoots, misses again. And he's like, liar. You love being kept. You love being cared for. And it's just blah, blah, blah. Keeps going on. She keeps shooting. Then he pulls a blade out from his cane. And at this point, I'm like, is she out of bullets now? She's like, my one regret is I only get to kill you once. So he kind of moves, and she shoots. And he grunts softly. He's like, the truth is, my love, I'm happy it's you. Boom, he falls. Outside, the sand starts reforming. Layden, he's trying to get his powers back. He starts pulling powers from the light poles and a sign. Electricity starts coming towards him. And Ben sees this. He's like, oh, come on. Because he thought he was done. So Layden's back on his feet. And he's back to being annoying. I suppose I should thank you. The Spider's like, for saving our life back in France? If we're being honest, I have regrets. He's like, no. For giving me the one thing I always wanted. Look at me now, Ma. I'm a star. Ben's like, you're not a star, but you are sick. And the stronger your power becomes, the sicker you get. I can help you. He's like, no thanks, pal. Save your cure for the saps. Sends his zap along the parked cars, shocks the spider. Then his spider sense goes off. Swoon's like, behind you. Flint's like, he walks up. Spider like punches him, leaves like a big dent in his cheek, but it reforms. He's like, that's not good. Flint punches him like in the gut or something like that, and he slams his head against a car, and he's like just pushing it. And his mask like starts to rip, and he like tosses him into the street. So Layden gives him another zap, and he's rambling on. He says like, look at you, you're like a dog or whatever like that. Flint's like, I think you proved your point. Layden's like, are you kidding me? I've waited my whole life for this. My star turn on Broadway. And he's just going on because, he must have had such a pathetic life. He's like, I got my crowd here, and they start booing him. He's like, oh, boo yourself. It's like, say goodbye to the spider, everyone. More zapping, and Cat comes out with the gun, tells him to stop. So Layden slowly turns around. It's like, oh, honey, I don't believe for 1 second you're going to pull that trigger. She pulls the trigger. Click. She's out of bullets. And Layden's like, what a shame. So Flint, he like looks concerned. Layden like kind of puffs up, gets ready to zap, and Flint runs her. He's like, no. Bzz. She gets zapped. So Flint catches her, like eases her down. He turns and looks at Layden. He glares at him. And Layden's like, oh, well. Ladies and gentlemen, you're in luck. Tonight will be a double bill featuring me, your leading man Megawatt, versus the Sandman. Flint like punches him, but then Layden like zaps him, and he's like holding his hand. He's got Flint's like wrist. He's like zapping, and his hand starts like hardening, and then it shatters. Flint falls like to his knees, and Layden's like, good night, sweet prince, and the flights of the angels sing thee to thy rest. Then Ben's eye snaps open. He webs Layden from behind, like by the shoulders. He starts like pulling Layden. He starts sending like electricity, zaps electricity through the webbing, because I guess they're conductive. I guess Ben like groans, but he hangs in. He pulls and then he swings Layden up. Bam! Smashes into like a coming train on the elevated track. People are like, oh, and then yay! They start cheering. So he picks up his hat. He goes to Cat. She's like on her knees, like cradling Flint's head. Ben reaches in the pocket, pulls out the last syringe, which has somehow survived the battle, has not gotten smashed or anything like that, which is, I don't understand how that's possible. And he's like, I still have one left. And he hands it to Cat. And she's like, why? He's like, you know why. So does he. So Ben stands, puts his hat on, starts walking away. Then, like in a church mausoleum or something like that, a priest is speaking Latin. Ben's like in a corner and clears his throat. Flint and Cat are standing there. So I don't know, maybe it's for Silvermane. I don't know. They walk over to Ben, and Ben's like, you're looking well. And Flint's like, thanks to you. And then Cat says to Flint, she's like, can we have a moment? He's like, yeah. So she says to Ben, she's like, I love Flint, but in a different world, I really would have run away with you. You know that, right? And Ben's like, it's one thing to use a guy. It's another to try to keep him on the hook after you've set sail for shore. And she's like, go to hell, Ben. Which is kind of mean on his part, but he's kind of right. And so she's like, go to hell. And he's like, I'm keeping it warm for you. And she just turns and walks away. He puts his hat on. Then a shot of him walking away alone. Then we hear Morris is like, thank you, New York. I'm proud to be your mayor. So Ben and Robbie are like watching from the fire escape. Ben's like, I still don't know if he's a Republican or Democrat. Robbie's like, well, what did it say when you check the vote? He's like, I voted for like biggest piece of garbage or something like that. I don't know. They go inside like the office. Robbie says that after all that, it's like he gets a paper to run. Morris wins. Flint gets a girl. Janet gets a new office. So what does Ben get? And Janet's like, a new lease on life? Ben's like, I'll just settle for a really good hot dog. Robbie like snickers. The phone rings. Janet answers. She's like, Riley Rua's investigations. So they're partners now. Ben like holds up 2 fingers. And she's like, yes, let me check. And she's like, yeah, 2:00? It's like, okay, we'll meet you then. She's like, why 2? He's like, it makes us seem busy. He's like, also, I really want that hot dog. Robbie's buying. And he's like, And Ben's like, what? He's like, you got your own newspaper now. And he's like, yeah, it pays worse than the Bugle. So they slapped on a newspaper on the desk, and it's like the Harlem Herald. They head out. Ben webs his hat from across the office, whoosh, puts it on, closes the door. End of the show. So that's it. So like I said, we could easily have a season 2. Because if you think about it, who discovered his identity? So Flint knows. Flint and Kat know. They're probably not going to say anything because they're out of the business. They just want to go have a quiet life. Drayden, can we assume he's dead? Maybe. I mean, he could have survived, but he got smacked by the train. You know, they do have the powers. Seems like the powers augment them a little bit. Silvermane found out, but he's gone. I don't know if any of the thugs would really know. They may not even know who he is. So you could do it, bring in other people. We'll see. I don't know how well it was received. I mean, the ratings seem to be pretty decent. So maybe we'll get more. So that was Spider-Noir.
Right now, My Adventures with Superman, Season 3, Episode 4. Guess who's slamming, no G. Guess who's slamming to dinner? This is... I like this episode, and here's me complaining now, and I know I talked about complaining, but oh my gosh, Jimmy Olsen, he's getting on my nerves. All right, Clark knocks on Lois's door with flowers. She answers, and she's all disheveled. Her apartment's a mess, and he asks if she's okay, and she like swats the flowers out of his hand, which is rude. Lois can be rude, but that's just Lois. She's like that for some reason, and we're supposed to accept it. So she says to give her a minute. She just needs shoes. Inside, Kara is sleeping and like floating, so I guess she can, whatever. And let's not get into that. Lois whispers, she's like, Clark, if she wakes up, it's going to be all, Lois Lane, which of these men have caught the most impressive earthfish? Lois Lane, what does it mean? Gemini do not interact. Lois Lane, assist me in choosing from my 5 billion suitors, and we'll never get out of here. He's like, hey, you okay? And she sighs, she's like, yeah, I'm just nervous, I guess. He's like, nothing to be nervous about. We'll have brunch at your favorite restaurant. They both say, Pound Cake Palace. And we'll talk about the future, and it'll be fine because we have each other. And she's like, pound cake. He's like, well, I was going to say no super business, but yeah, that too. She's like, I'll always have my Superman. And Kara's like, she's like, I want to pet the dog. And she says that in her sleep. Lois and Clark both say, but no super business. So they walk down the street. This is part of it. Jimmy calls Lois's watch, because he gave all of them like super watches. He calls and she like hangs up right away. Then Jimmy calls Clark's watch and he's like, hi, Jimmy. And she's like, seriously? And he's like, Clark, great. Okay, so I'm on a date with another worm scientist. And Lois is like, of course you are. And Clark's like, what, Jimmy? And then Jimmy's like, I got turned into a wolf man once. Why must we generalize? And then Lois is like, then why are you calling? And Jimmy's like, well, my date seems great, really accomplished. He giggles. From Coast City, has 2 sisters. Lois starts pulling Clark because they're walking on the sidewalk. He's like, but she also brought a bunch of suspicious vials. So I was wondering, and then she's like, ah, so she like grunts. She slams her hand over the whole image of Jimmy. So at Pound Cake Palace, they get a basket of quarter-pound cakes. Lois mentions dodging Jimmy and Kara, making it. They finally made it to an actual date. So, they're a pretty good team. He's like, we are, you and me. He's like, we can handle anything the future throws at us. And then, blue and red streak from like above, and the basket is now empty. And they're like kind of confused. Crumbs start to fall from above them. They look, and they see Superboy hanging upside down from a light. And then he loudly says, hi, Mom, hi, Dad. And he like drops down in between them. He's like, have we ordered yet? And it's kind of seems silly that he's so nonchalant about being in a world that's not ravaged, or that his parents are like younger. And Clark's like, and then it gets the intro. So this was the thing, because like last episode when we saw Superboy with like Lex and Jimmy and someone else, like I was like, is this Connor? Because he's got like the Superboy outfit, or is this not? Is this? And so since he's calling them his parents, this is Jonathan. So we get the intro. And then Superboy reads the menu, and he's in awe, like all the choices. He asks, what do you usually get? Then he says that they should just get one of everything, and he like zips off. So Lois grabs Clark's shirt, and she's like, "What do we do?" And Superboy returns, and the table's like full of like pound cake. And she mutters to Clark. She's like, "Say something." He's like, hi. So, and then Lois like, "When you said mom," and Clark's like, "And dad," and she's like, "What did you mean by that?" And Clark's like, "Yeah, what did you mean by that?" And Superboy's like, "Oh, sorry, yeah, no, it's me, your son John from the future." Lois like stands and her voice gets higher. She's like, "Future?" Superboy's like, "This is so slamming. You guys are so young." It's like, "What do you guys do? Like, where do you hang out? Like, what's your favorite movie? And why do you wear glasses?" And he's like zipping back and forth, like between, he takes Clark's glasses. And he's like, "Oh, what's this?" And he grabs Lois's compass. And she's like, "What?" He's like, "I saw it in your jacket, X-ray vision." And he's like, "I got it from Dad." She's like, "I'm a great pickpocket." And she's like, "If you, then how, then why are you, then," oh, stupid Jimmy interrupts. So he's there. He's like covered in quills. "You will not believe the morning I've had." He sits next to Lois, and she's like, "Ow," because she gets poked by one of his quills. So, and it's like right here, it's like he makes me want to stop watching the show. Like right now, I was like so ready. He's like, "Okay, I'm done. I can't watch this show anymore." I find it, I don't know why. I know it's supposed to be comic relief or whatever. It is so, he's so incredibly selfish and annoying. So Superboy slides next to him on the other side. He's like, "Hey, Uncle Jimmy." And Jimmy's like, "Hi, how are you doing?" "So, as you can see, my date did end up having some quirks. So now you're going to have to take me to Star Labs." So it's like Jimmy is so self-absorbed. He doesn't notice Superboy or the fact that he call him Uncle Jimmy. And now he's pretty much demanding Clark take him to Star Labs, even though Clark's supposed to be there alone, like with Lois. So he's like, "Jimmy, it's not the best time." And Jimmy's like, "Oh, okay, I'll just walk around like Porcupine Man forever." And then Lois like, "Ow, Jimmy." He's like, "Sorry, this never would have happened if you hadn't hung up on me." And she like groans. Then Kara's like floating overhead. Lois, she must say, or maybe she's like, "Lois Lane, I appear to have received so many messages from potential suitors that the app no longer functions. How does one?" And she's distracted by all the pound cake. It's like, "This culture, it's so rich." And she points to Superboy. "Who are you?" And Jimmy finally noticed. He's like, "Yeah, wait, what did you call me?" And then here's where he like, I guess he knows who everyone is. He's like, "I'm John Kent. I'm their son." And Lois like plops her head down on a table. Kara's like, "What?" And Jimmy's like, "Okay, but," and Kara's like, "Is this true?" And Jimmy's like, "How?" So Superboy's like, "I'm from the future. You're my Uncle Jimmy, and you're my Aunt Kara." And Kara's like, "And you are Kryptonian?" Jimmy's like, "I'm an uncle? And you're from the future?" And then Kara's like, "Yes, Kal-El, be proud." Jimmy's like, "Do you know what this means?" And Kara's like, because they're talking at the same time. And she's like, "Our bloodline." And Jimmy's like, "4 best friends for life." And Kara's like, our bloodline has prospered." And Jimmy's like, "What's the future like?" Lois is like freaking. And Kara's like, "John L." I like that she calls him John because his name's John. So she calls him John L. "I will teach you many things about this earth." And Jimmy interrupts, of course. He's like, "Wait, did you say you broke the dating app?" And Lois like stands and yells. And she's like, "Ow." She's like, "That's it." The waitress gets like scared, drops some pound cakes. And Clark's like, "Sorry, can we please get that to go?" At Star Labs, Jimmy's like saying, "Ow, ow, ow." Because the quills are being pulled out one by one by a dude with tweezers. It's like, couldn't Jimmy have done that? John's like floating around. He's like, "What's this? Look at this." Oh, he's like, excited. He's like invisibility vest. He's like looking, touching everything. Clark's like, "Maybe we should get him outside." John's like, "I love outside." Well, on the news, the reporter's talking about tremors, unexplained geological tremors reported around the city. Jimmy blows a raspberry. He's like, "Pfft." He's like, yeah, at the unexplained part. He's like, "I've been saying for years," because he did mention when they went to that bunker about the dinosaur men or something like that. Outside, John apologizes to Clark, Lois, and Kara if he came on too strong. He's just so excited to be here. And Clark's like, "It's all right, kiddo." And gives like an awkward chuckle. Lois questions like, kiddo? And she's like, you're just going to take his word for it? And Clark's like, Lois, he's a flying pickpocket. And she's like, but time travel, Clark? It's like, don't you need more evidence? John hands her a piece of pound cake. They both like chomp on the piece and wipe their hand on their shirt like the exact same way. And he's like, not really. And Clark's like, no. And then Lois is like, I'm a mom? It's like, oh, this can't be happening. I can't be someone's mom. Do I look like someone's mom? Clark's like, well, she's like, don't answer that. This is fine. I just need to, I have to, and then she gets a text from Perry asking, doesn't she owe him a story? She's like, work. I have to work. Questions need answering. John zips by her. Can I go to work with you? Can I? And he keeps like cutting her off whichever way she turns. He's like, can I, please? And then she's like, why are you here, John? And Car's like, John L., your mother must work, but you and I can spend traditional family time together. Would you like to train, grapple, or spar? And he's like, and Clark's like, or maybe John just wants to do normal stuff. And she's like, oh yes, I know what is normal. So she takes John to the mall. From like the outside, we hear Lois like, this again? Later at LexCorp, because I think it's like nighttime at this point, the TV reporter is like, Hank Henshaw, once decorated, adulated, lionized, what has become of that American hero? Hank Henshaw's mission was once to lead humanity to a brighter tomorrow. And Hank's like in his repair chair thing. Lex like chastises him. They're scared of you, Hank. And then the news is like, but now in a super-powered cyborg body, should he be pitied or feared? Lois is on TV. That man is gone. Hank is not our hero. I'm not sure there's any coming back, but... And then it repeats, Hank is not our hero. Not our hero. Not our hero. He like screams in rage and blasts like the monitor with like his hand blasters. It's like a nice security Lex, because he's just like destroyed his whole place. And, nothing like stops him. At the mall, John is like trying on clothes and like outfits. Jimmy's trying to get him to get like... He shows like this big flashy suit, of course, whatever. And then with a leather jacket, he's like, I don't know if it says John Kent. But Jimmy's like, but it does say Superboy. And he's like, you're right. So this is like, again, where he's more like Connor and not like John. So he flies over to Lois and like kind of startles her, holds up like a matching jacket for her. And she looks, there's like a couple of mannequins wearing like kind of like salmon colored t-shirts and jeans with a sign that says Mommy and Me. But he's impressed when he sees shoes with wheels. And then because of roller skates, he listens like some music on headphones, and he gets impressed by this miniature like farm set Clark shows him. And then Jimmy offers like to buy some stuffed dude plushie or something like that. And when he does his net, it says he's at negative $1,500. So it's like, where did all his money go? And is this going to be addressed? Because it's not mentioned anytime again. So he's going to be in debt. Then there's another tremor, so they go outside the store. There's several floors up, and they see people like down below, like running out and everything. Like some have stumbled and fallen. There's just like huge like animal critter thing, which like a sign that says toy sale hanging from like a rope, and it decides to snap right at that moment. I guess because it's swaying a bit, whatever. So it's falling straight for her mom, and because this kid stumbled, so the mom like get down. So she's the kids like shrieks. The mom she tries to shield the kids. She's got her eyes shut, and then Superboy zips down, and then thud. He's holding it up. Big triumphant music plays, and he gives a little kid like a high five or whatever. Lois looks down. She's like, just like Clark, and she smiles, but then it fades, and she says to herself, she's like, but why are you here? So Slade sits. His arms in a sling, and so he has a frown on his face. He looks at his phone. Henshaw walks in. Slade pulls his sword out like right away, and Hank's like, "Whoa, easy there, Fido." Lex is like, "Henshaw, we agreed you'd keep to your quarters until further notice." And he's like holds the zapper device in his hand. Henshaw kind of glares at it, but then he smiles. He's like, "That's exactly why I'm here." He floats like up a bit. Wilson extends the sword at him. He's like, I wanted to apologize. And Lex is like, I see. He crosses his arm. Go on. Hank's like, what occurred yesterday was totally unacceptable. A good commanding officer knows how to get his people back in line. And you did exactly that. You were right to remind me of who's in charge. And Lex is like, me? And Hank laughs. Yes, yes, you. I owe you my life, and I will never forget it. And Lex is like, again. And Hank's like, Lex is like, you'll never forget it again. And Hank like scoffs. He's like, affirmative. And Lex is like, all right, Henshaw. Glad to see you've come to your senses. But when Lex like walks away, Hank has like a bit of a scowl on his face. He looks over, he sees one of like the robot things from the future. I wasn't sure if it was like I don't remember. It's from season 1. It was like the parasite thing. I don't know if it was whatever. And then Lex tells Wilson, he's like, told you you'd come around. They always do. And Slade's like, you can't be serious. You actually bought that act? Lex is like, it's not an act. It's like, a firm hand never fails with these kinds of types. Slade's like, I am that type. He tried to kill me yesterday. And Hank's like listening from outside the room, and he's like looking through heat signatures. And Lex is like, look, that was a blip. And Slade's like, a blip? He's like, yes, Slade. And then Hank sees the device on a table, and he's like able to see the code or something like that, because it starts like, window pops up and all the stuff starts scrolling. Lex is like, it's time to move on. At the mall, John skates while carrying a bunch of packages. He asks, what's next? Lois is like freaking out again. Then on her phone, like you see Perry's like contact thing. And then she pretends that he called her. She's like, oh no, Perry's calling. Like, sorry, gotta work. But you guys can, And John zips in front of her. You've got to show me the Daily Planet, please. She like looks at him and then at Clark. So they're all crowded around Lois as she's like typing on her computer. And Jimmy's like, you wrote who? It's whom? And she's like, I need air. So then they're all sitting on the planet's roof eating like ramen. Lois is looking grumpy. Jimmy speaks. Look at us, 5 best friends. Clara floats up. Jimmy Flamebird, take a photograph of me in front of this globe for my dating profile. Jimmy like kind of does a spit take with his ramen. And Clark's like, I'll take it for you, Kara. She's like, but Jimmy Flamebird always takes the best pictures of me. And the dating was his idea, so... And he's like, okay. Clark's like, what about one where you're holding the globe in your hand? Like, she's like this? So she like rips off the... He's like, no. It's like, not what I meant. Lois and John are still sitting. They both start chuckling. And she's like, you ordered a spicy too, huh? And John's like, must get it from you, Mom. And her noodles like drop from her chopsticks because when he says Mom, and her eyes kind of go wide. She's like, Mom. And John looks kind of sad. She's like, oh, John, you're great. You're super. It's just not every day your kid from the future stops by to say hi. And she's like, oh, I get it. This is probably not how you thought your day was going to go. She's like, oh, it's not that. She's like, the future is just coming and I can't stop it. Like, no matter what choices I make, I'm already locked into something I can't control. And John's like, I don't believe in fate. What's coming is ours to shape. Plus, you have to listen to me. I'm from the future. She's like, what happens in your future, John? Why are you here? And his face gets like a little sad. And then there's like a violent roar and explosions that interrupt him. Clark gasps. Then Superman zips off. Kara swoops. She changes into her suit. And John's like, hey, Aunt Kara, can I take this one? Just me and Dad? She's like, yes. He's like, thanks. Then he sets down on the ledge. He's still wearing his skates. He kind of rolls back off and flies. Lois gas, but then Superboy turns and like zips off. And she like sighs in relief. Then Kara zips off. Jimmy goes for the door to get down. It's locked. And Lois is like, we're locked on the roof. Jimmy takes out his phone. Hey, bird watchers, drop your lockpicking tips below. And she just face palms. So Dinomen are attacking and making like mess at this construction site. Superman and Superboy, they're like watching from above. And John's like, oh, that's what's causing those tremors. I thought the past was just wobbly. Dad? And he's like, sorry, yeah. Just, what else does Jimmy write about? And John's like, what? You don't know about the sub-tyrannosauri? And Superman's like, you do? And Superboy's like, yeah, of course. They're very, very reasonable guys. I'll have this wrapped up in like 5 minutes. And there's like people screaming and they're banging on equipment and throwing like steel girders. Superman's like, yeah, I don't think... And Superboy's like, I got this. Trust me. He swoops down. This big red one, I guess his name's Kroll, because he's like, Kroll. Superboy's like, hey guys, I'm Superboy. That's Superman. He's like, hi. What seems to be the problem here? And he like roars in John's face. He's like, Kroll. And he's like, huh. Superman's like, John, and Superman's like, don't worry, hang on. Our friend here just doesn't speak English very well now. And Superman's like, John. And he's like, my Subterranosauri is a little rusty, but I can take a swing. And then he actually takes a swing from Kroll's tail. And he goes flying, like smashing into like some big metal tubes. At LexCorp, Hank goes into the control room. And Lex is like, not now, Hank, I'm busy. He's like, make time. And Lex is like, I'm sorry, didn't we just have a chat about who's in charge here? And Hank's like, we sure did, but I remembered something you forgot. This little thing called a food chain and where you fall in it. So he approaches Lex. Lex holds up the device. That's 2 strikes, Hank. Don't let there be a third. And Hank's like, oh, there won't be. And his eyes glow red. So Lex pushes a button. The remote explodes in his hand, and Lex gives a little scream. He starts like typing on a control pad, like whatever keyboards on the tabletop, and the lights like go red. He scrambles to get away. Hank's eyes glow, and a couple like robot things, they bust out of glass cases. They grab Lex, and he's like, Slade. Doors open behind Lex. Slade's there. He like kind of surveys the scene. Just a blip, right, Lex? And Lex like, we're gonna do this now. And Slade's like, I'm not doing anything. So the robots throw Lex down. He's like, Hank, we can work this out. Do you want more autonomy? You can get it. And he grabs and picks up Lex by the shirt. I want my life back. You made me this monster, this freak. Lex is like, Hank, you want to talk about who did this to you? Who took everything away? It's the aliens. I saved you. You don't want to punish me. You want to punish Superman. He's the one who did this. Which is like, no, he didn't. It's so stupid. So he releases Lex. And Lex is like, I won't try to stop you. In fact, I'll help you. Going forward, we. And Hank's like, there is no we. And he like flicks him with his finger. He goes flying out of the room. And he's like stands there with the 2 robots. Slade stares at him. And Hank's like, remember the food chain. At the construction site, Superman's like, John, are you all right? And then he like moves one of the pipes. He's like, that was wild. And Superman's like, yeah, the dinosaur people. John's like, no, I mean, they're supposed to be humanity's allies. Why are they being so mean? And Superman's like, you get everyone to safety. I'll handle the dinosaurs. So he blows them away with his super breath. John's like trying to tell people to back up. Then he gets louder. Superman tells him, he's like, be gentle. He's like, you can't help them if they don't feel safe. And he sees a little girl like curled up in a ball next to like an overturned car with dino people like coming closer to her. So he crouches down next to her and he softly says, he's like, hi there. He's like, I'm John. I'm going to get you out of here. And then crying, she like jumps into his arms. He floats up and she grabs onto his jacket in fear. He's like, scared of heights? He's like, no problem. So he roller skates away and she starts laughing. Meanwhile, Kroll throws like a giant drill bit at Superman. It sends him like smashing through several like support beams. So the building's about to collapse. Superman catches it. He like lets it rest on some of the support. He like kind of lowers it down, I guess. Kroll comes at him. He's got like a big metal hook on a chain. He starts like spinning it. He throws it at Superman, but he blows it and he freezes the chain and Kroll. Outside the building, Superboy's like, Dad, that was so... And they both say, slammin'. There's another roar. An even bigger dino person comes like out of the hole. Cower before me, flying surface dwellers. And Superman's like, you speak English? He's like, silence, for it is I, Tyranko, prince of the Subterranosauri. John has a big smile on his face. My people have suffered at the hands of the surface world. Humanity has dug too far and drilled too deep. That ends today. John's like, wait. Your Eminence, I beg your forgiveness. I have traveled here from the future where man and Subterranosauri live in harmony, side by side, hand in claw. Please believe me when I say that together we can make prejudice extinct. Then we see the Dino Prince and the mayor shaking hands. Kroll is there, Superman, Superboy are floating nearby. And Superman's like, so this hand and claw future, was that all true? And John's like, yeah, we've been friends and allies for like 20 years or so. Wait, What if, oh wow, I'm the guy who made peace with the Subtyrannosaurus. Oh, slamming, time travel, rocks. And he's like, what? Superman's like, this is what Superman fights for, a better tomorrow. Like chuckles. He's like, I think that's enough super business for one day. I know just where we can get you all patched up. So they're at the farm. Jimmy says that he cannot believe that he missed out on the Dino Men. Kara's like sitting on a white horse. And it's like, this is supposed to be a comet? And Superman's like, we'll tell you all about it over dinner. So Clark has a baseball and a mitt. Kara gets excited. She's like, Earth catch. But it's the closed caption says URTH and KETCH. Yes, Jonathan Kent, I will teach you how to Earth catch. And he looks over at Lois, like sitting under a tree typing. He's like, that's okay. You guys can play. I'm going to help Mom out with her story. So Lois is typing out Subterrano Showdown. Humanity's new allies. So he like kind of peeks, around a tree without looking. She's like, what did you say the name of the leader was again? And she's like, Tyrinkus? John clears his throat. Tyranko? She's like, right. And how's that spelled? So he like types it. She's like, thanks. So what do you think? He reads at super speeds because he sees his eyes like move. He's like, it's slamming. And she's like, really? He's like, yeah, well, I'm not surprised though. You're really just how I always imagined you. And right there, that kind of says something. And I'm not, she's like, you imagined me? And he's like, yeah, he looks in his pocket and she pulls out a picture of Lois and Clark holding him as a baby. She's like, looking for this? She's like, I'm a pretty good pickpocket myself. They both chuckle. And he's like, nice, yeah. I know it's weird to find out that you're a mom all of a sudden, but thanks for today. I really needed it. And she's like, yeah, I think I did too. So then a little later, she goes up and takes Clark's hands. Or he says, but she didn't question that whole part. But he's like, if he's our future, then it's better than I could have ever imagined. So John's like holding up the truck so, Jonathan can work under it. And she's like, yeah, maybe it won't be so bad. Then Kara like busts open the door from inside. Kal-El, come now. Inside, people are screaming on TV. The ticker says Metropolis under attack. Superman's statue gets his head blown off. People are screaming in the streets. Cyborg Superman floats in the air with his blaster hand out. He blasts some more. He makes his face appear like on the Jumbotrons or whatever. Superman, see how they run for me? They used to love me. They used to cheer my name. Now they shriek it. You want to be the city's hero? Come and fight for it. Shoom, shoom. Clark and Kara are gone. Lois is left alone. But then John says behind her, I thought I'd have more time. And Lois is like, more time for what? John, why are you here? And John's like, where I come from, Dad is dead. You both are. I was sent back in time to save you, save everyone. And she's like, save us from what? And an image of Cyborg Superman's on TV. And John's like, from him. And that is the end of the episode. So it's like, we knew this was coming. It was like super fast. It's like John's like not even there one entire episode, and the Hell Earth is already going to start. So if it wasn't for Jimmy, this would be a really great show. So yeah, I'm sure we'll continue this. I am debating. It's like, should I continue it? But I find that the differences and the tweaks and just how they're approaching the storytelling, it's interesting. They're not just retelling regular, history. They're kind of making it up, sort of, and like making it work for them. So I dig that. All right, X-Men 97, Season 2, Episode 2, A Force to be Reckoned With. So yes, we are behind. I apologize. We'll get caught up. It starts off 1997. And at first I'm like, why? Of course it's 1997 because it's X-Men 97, but we were just in the future. And this was one thing that was weird, that this takes place in the quote-unquote present, 1997. But it's like, well, what about the past? Because the other X-Men are there. So I guess we take this little detour. Like, okay, that's fine. So outside, it's like suburbia. Kids are like running. Someone with an astral bird. I don't know who that's supposed to be. I don't know anything. I thought I knew all the X-Men, but that's the thing because they mix things up. You know, they're whatever. So they're kids. The bird, the spirit bird thing, whatever, like knocks out some lights. Monet's there, according to the closed caption. She yells at them to move. She's like, the school's right up ahead. And then Wing, he asks, he's like, what direction now? Quentin's there. He's like, it's over there. So again, really just mixing up all the different timeline characters, whatever, you know, making them like the same age. And that's fine. That's what I talked about before with, you know, when they do these X-Men movies. Then you see someone like, shoom, shoom. So like, at first I was like, can their pursuers teleport or cloak or something like that? But then they reach the gates to school and you can see it's like a mess from the attack. It's like all, you know, parts are destroyed and everything. Wing's like, no. And Quentin's like, what did I tell you? The X-Men are dead and they're never coming back. So then one kid's like, we need to split up, regroup somewhere else. And then some kid named Mark, he's like, safe? This was a safe place for kids like us. And then bright lights shine on them. Closed caption tells us Havoc. He's like, don't move. So then at this point, it's like, I was like, oh, that was probably Madrix before, that wasn't someone teleporting. So he's like, this area is restricted. And one, I think it's that Mark kid, he's like, oh, please, like, don't hurt us. And you see like something flying overhead. At first I thought it was ship, Cable's thing, but no. It's like a big helicarrier or something like that. So we see X-Forces, or not X-Force, X-Factor is standing there. Because you see Strong Guy, Havoc, Polaris, Wolfsbane, and like 3 Madrixes. I guess that's what we say. And of course, I think, you know, I'm not really sure if it's Wolfsbane or Feral. It's got to be it's Wolfsbane, right? It was Rain. And then Havoc's like, don't worry, son. We won't hurt you. We're definitely the good guys. So then news, Trish Chilby reports, surviving in a world without X-Men, as like says on the screen. They call themselves X-Factor, and an image shows Havoc and Polaris. They're like guiding like Chamber, and it looks like he's like under arrest because it looks like his arms like are behind him. It's like the U.S. government's mutant task force charged with containing global crisis in a world without the X-Men. With unprovoked violence against mutant youths on the rise, director Val Cooper is under fire for a controversial campaign to relocate mutants, quote, for their own safety. And so Jubilee's like watching. She's like at some like, not really a bar, but like at a counter. And like Roberto Sunspot, he's playing an arcade game. Then it turns out, you know, he made some money against someone. He's like, oh, do you want to play? And she says, the X-Men wouldn't be playing around while the government's detaining mutant kids. She's like, it doesn't help that Forge and Bishop disappeared on us. So Roberto promises that they'll pop up sooner or later. It's like, how would he know? She says that the whole world's upside down and they're just, you know, plugging quarters at the arcade. And then some dude sitting next to her at the counter, he's like, geez, aren't you supposed to be the peppy one? And he turns and his eye glows. It's Cable. So they sit at a booth and Jubilee's like, just to get this straight, you want me, Jubilee, to be part of your, and she like whispers, super secret Black Ops team? And she like elbows Roberto because he's not really paying attention. He's just like chomping on a burger. And Cable's like, I'm working on a case. And you just happen to be one of the last people to cross paths with my target. He slides like a manila folder like to her. There's pictures and like modded stuff. So you see like Apocalypse, Abraham, Kiros / War. Looks like there's a picture of like Fabian and Cortez. And she's like, Apocalypse? Cable's like, he's been off the grid for a while, but now one of his horsemen reemerge on the scene. Goes by the name of War. I've been raiding his safe houses, trying to figure out what that psychopath's cooking up. Juby's like, just turn on the news. Perfect time for Apocalypse to ignite his dream war between humanity and mutants. Cable's like, his sole aim is to dominate the evolutionary chain. If he's not stopped, he'll wipe out most of the world and enslave anyone unlucky enough to survive. Roberto's like, sounds like a lot of not fun. And he's like, you're telling me. Listen close. This is dangerous work. I got no need for students or heroes. We are soldiers. Once you're in, you're in. No questions, no retreat. Governments will hunt us. Nowhere will be safe. But it beats playing video games while the world's going to hell. Jubilee's like, this team got a name? Then we get the intro, but it's a different intro. It's not X-Men 97. It is X-Force 97. So we see Cable, Jubilee, Sunspot, Psylocke, and Archangel. They go through the whole thing, and instead of Professor X and Magneto, it's Cable and Apocalypse and his Horsemen, and pretty clever. So Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. There's a parade going on. Cable says the mission is simple. They find Apocalypse Horsemen. They find Apocalypse. So he tells Psylocke to scan. She's like up on a rooftop. She says he picked quite the week for this. She tries. She said there's too many minds. She can't isolate, any one of them. Then she asks Warren how's his view from the sky, and he says no sign, so he's going to go further north. Then Cable complains to Jubilee and Roberto because they're dancing. He's like, it's not a date night. And she's like, you said to blend in. And she's like, unlike that guy, green skin, bowl cut, it's our target on my 12 o'clock. He's like, tail him, but keep your distance. Guy's got more blood on his hands than history books can count. Then she loses this guy with like stilts, walks and gets in her way. Psylocke says that he's making it for an alleyway, so he must be onto them. She says she needs backup now. She jumps off the rooftop, smashes down onto a car, and just like flips off. It's like, that would suck for whoever's car it was. Cable yells not to let War get away. Jubilee and Sunspot run after. They're flying. Sunspot's like flying, carrying her. He picks up, because he picked up Jubilee. He's like, I might know a shortcut or two, and he tells her like when to fire her powers. So she charges up and then punches him. Psylocke arrives and gives him like another punch to the face while Jubilee's like celebrating. But then he fights back against Psylocke. War is about to blast Psylocke, but then Sunspot blasts him. Then Psylocke uses like her psychic, I thought it was her psychic dagger, but it was almost like a psychic sword on him, and while he's distracted. So later, they have him tied to a tree on the beach, and he tells them that they fight a battle that cannot be won against the dawn of an age that cannot be stopped. When he who never dies will cull the weak from the herd. Angel continues, until only the strong survived. Yes, we know. And he's like, you have forsaken your master, heretic. But in due time, you will face his judgment. Angel slugs him. And it's like, I guess he knocked him out. So he won't be speaking willingly. Apocalypse made loyal servants of us all. Psylocke nods, touches his head. Jubilee's like, I thought telepaths were supposed to. And Cable's like, have manners. Like, that might be how your professor did it, but we don't have time for pleasantries. Then there's like some echoey memories. Apocalypse tells War, well done, tells him to open a casket. And he's like, soon the old world shall finally pass away, and together we shall forge a new one in fire and blood. Psylocke has to cut the connection, says his mind's like booby-trapped, like a wall of diamonds like blocking her. And, she stole as much as she could. Then Cable presents his big rifle to Archangel, tells him to put him out of his misery before he hurts anyone else. But it's like, why doesn't he do it? And Jubilee's like, whoa, what? And Archangel's like, War is a horseman. He cannot be saved. And she's like, you were? And he's like, yes, by Rogue. And now she's gone. Trust me, Jubilee. This isn't murder. It's mercy. So he takes the rifle, and to Cable, Jubilee's like, but we could call the authorities. He might have more to say. And you hear, pew! There's a gunfire from behind her back. She gasps. She glances back. Cable's like, we are the authority. War's body just plops down. Jubilee stands like looking at it. On Cable's big plane, she says that he's like, you didn't have to kill him back there. We could have gotten more out of him. And Cable's like, last I checked, I give the orders around here. And she's like, and last I checked, we were trying to stop a ruthless mass murderer, not steal from his playbook. It's like, I helped you get the horseman, but if you want anything else, I'm going to need a little less killing. He's like, take it that means you've got a hunch? She's like, Psylocke said the horseman's mind was blocked by a psychic wall and saw diamonds. I know only one telepath who's got a thing for diamonds. Saw her turn into one in Genosha. So London, England, like Hellfire Club, it looks like. Emma's there like with two dudes, opens the door to her office. Jubilee's in there. She's wearing a green dress and with like Sunspot and Cable. She's like, Emma Frost. And Emma's like, well, what do we have here? A stray, talking about Roberto, a firecracker, and a pit bull.
She motions for two to stay outside. The door closes. She's like, not going to lie. If X-Force is going to crash my party, that dashing Warren Worthington is more my type. And in Cable, she's like, though I wouldn't mind making you bark. Woof. And Jubilee's like, ew. Emma's like, your exploits in Rio spun up a lot of chatter. You are all quite the party crashers. And Cable's like, we're wasting time. Jubilee's like, the X-Men saved your life in Genosha. And Emma's like, as well as their heroic image. And Jubilee's like, you owe us. We need information. Emma's like, we all have wants. Some of us can just afford them more easily. Cable steps forward with a Polaroid of war tied up. But it's like, when did they take that picture? Because it was before they killed him. Like maybe before we saw them. I don't know. Right after he tied him up. He's like, believe you and Bullcut were in business partners? Jubilee's like, you want to tell us a little about the nature of that business? Emma's like, oh, you're serious. And at Cable, it's like, and you're terrified. Listen, my dears, I'm a matchmaker. I help demand meet supply and take a small cut. I don't get curious. So please pack up your blame and just tell us what the horseman wanted. She's like, he needed to smuggle cargo into Switzerland. And Julie's like, got an address? And she like chuckles. She's like, of course. But as I said, I'm in it for a cut. So where should we start the bidding? At just Stad, Switzerland, Cable's plane lands and they enter the facility. And Cable's like, Horseman tech, everything Apocalypse needs to convert mutants into his loyal death squad. Warren's like, no, Cable, this equipment, it's far more advanced than any he ever used on me. Jubilee notices the crates are empty. So like if Apocalypse was here, he's long gone. Cyclops somehow, she does like a psychic scan of the place. I didn't realize she could do that. And she says, whatever Apocalypse was working on, it's already built and moved out. It's like, how could she tell it? Archangel says Rio was probably staged just to distract them, and Cable kind of yells at Emma that she led them to a dead end. But it's like, wait, how's that her fault? She's like, not dead, but an end, yes. Then there's a clang, the lights come on. Havoc's there with X Factor. The others come out of the shadows. So it's like, I guess no one could sense them, like Cable or Psylocke. Lorna tells them to drop their weapons by the order of the United States government. Jubilee starts to say something to Emma. Emma says, sorry, in these times, amnesty is everything. So Havoc says that they have two options. But it's like, wait, United States government, they're in Switzerland. They're not even on U.S. soil. Havoc says they have two options, stand down or be put down. Cable's like, unlike you, X-Force doesn't answer to anyone, least of all Uncle Sam's mutant lapdogs. So Angel's like, traitors! And he like rises up, shoots out his razor like feathers. But Lorna uses her magnetic powers, like push him back. And like X-Force. Psylocke makes a big psychic butterfly shield. It's like, I don't know if she could do that. Then Wolfsbane, she's practically like walking on the walls. So wait. Yeah. But she, at first, I should look it up. Because like, was it Wolfsbane? She doesn't talk. I don't think she talks in this entire episode. But it's got to be Wolfsbane. Or for some reason, because Farrell wouldn't be working for the government. She'd be working with Cable. But it was just weird seeing her kind of like running on the walls practically. I guess she's digging her claws in. I don't know. Strong guy, Guido, he tells Cable not to bring a gun to a fist fight. Madrix makes a bunch of dupes to encircle Psylocke. But it's like, it used to be he needed like impact. He can just go bloop, 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 and just create him, I guess. She's like, well done, but I only need one of me. So she slices one and another and another. Sunspot flies around. Havoc tries blasting him, and he manages to knock Sunspot down. Jubilee runs at Havoc, but then he dodges her. He grabs her arm and has her hanging by it because he like just lifts her up because he's taller than her, I guess. And then she kicks him like an opposite shoulder. Then Sunspot slugs him. Havoc tries hitting back, but then Jubilee blasts him from behind. Emma just like sits and watches. She turns into Diamond like whenever random blasts like come her way. And she's like kind of bored. Cable says a strong guy. It's like, eat this, big guy. He puts like a bomb, has an X on her, like this little device on the middle of his back. So Guido calls out the Polaris because he can't reach it. She magnetically lifts it. It goes off like above his head. Havoc yells, she's like, let's wrap this up. So Polaris makes Angel's wing kind of close around him. She pulls up some metal tubes to wrap around like Cable and the others. Jubilee asks like Polaris, like, it's like, what are you doing? It's like, we're not the bad guys here. And she's like, it's not about good or bad. It's about authority. And you don't have any. But again, why does the U.S. government have any authority in Switzerland? Jubilee says that, she's an X-Men trying to help. And she's like, X-Men, remember them? You used to be one. Havoc says, she's like, you're a secret assassination hit squad. Archangel yells like, you don't understand. You have no idea the danger coming. Release us. Jubilee grabs like the metal hose that and uses her powers. Somehow the feedback goes along the other pipes and they can all break free. So it's like, I don't know, I feel like they're just changing their powers up however they want. I mean, it's like I was reading all these comics in the 90s. I don't remember them ever having these power sets. Cable yells for them to move to the jet. They're running, but then Havoc grabs Jubilee by the jacket. And as they pass like through the door closes, and they apparently can't do anything. Sunspot like tries going after, but Cable grabs him. Roberto's like, we have to go back but then Psylocke like makes him fall asleep. But it's like weird that they're just going to grab Jubilee and just let the rest leave. In Washington D.C., like some sort of like helicarrier, that must have been what was flying before. Havoc's like, come on. He's like, the guy left you high and dry without a second thought. I mean, do you really want to take the fall for this? Just tell us what Cable's up to and where he's going. Lauren is like, she says she's sure she didn't mean to get caught up in all of this. She's just a kid. Jubilee blows a bubble with her gum. It's like they let her keep her bubble gum. Lauren says X-Factor is formed by the government to legally police threats, mutants and human. So they're just trying to help keep order by easing tensions. So she's like, help us, help you. And Jubilee's like, you mean help you round up mutants? It's like, that's your plan for easing tensions with the violent bigots who are attacking us? You guys are going to have to bring in a telepath because I'm not talking. It's like, you have one of those on your C-list roster? Knock off Cyclops? Lauren tells Alex that maybe, give them a minute. So he's like, I'll do better than that. I'll give you 2. So Lorna sits on the table in front of Jubilee. Jubilee's like, this is who you left the X-Men to work with? And Lorna's like, I could say the same for you, working with a vigilante, like Cable. And she's like, okay, his methods are definitely a little questionable. I'm working on that. But at least he's on a mission worth fighting for. Sorry, I can't say the same for you. Lorna's like, we all lost a lot, Jubilee. I was a foster kid when the professor took me in. The X-Men became my family too. Now they're gone, and you and I are all that's left. We're all doing our best to honor them. Jubilee's like, if the professor was here, do you think he'd be proud of what you're doing? Heck, I'm wondering if he'd be proud of me. Havoc comes back in. He's like, got a fresh cell for you, hot shot. So Lorna just sits there as he takes Jubilee. They go down like some levels. Lots of cells with like force field doors. So we see like Quentin and, a lot of the others. They're all wearing like inhibitor collars. But it looks like there's like 5 to a cell. And we see like Artie and Dust. We see the Stepford Cuckoos. One is separated from the other two, so it looks like they're kind of anxious. But it doesn't look like there's any bed, just like a big table in the middle. And there's like narrow benches that are along the wall. So it's like, where do they sleep? On the floor? So Havoc is pretty much just like a major dick. When he leaves, Jubilee falls to her knees. And she's like, upset. On Cable's plane, Sunspot's awake. He's like, we are going back for Jubilee. Cable tells him to relax, that he's, buying them time to regroup. He's like, your girl can handle her own against the mutant mall cops. And he's like, what if she can't? Cable sighs. He's like, look, I trained you both. She'll be fine. We need to stay on the trail and find Apocalypse and his Frankenstein machine before. And he's like, we'll finish the mission, but not at the cost of one of our own. It's like, that's not what the X-Men would have done. He's like, yeah, and look where that got them. She can handle it on her own. And Roberto's like, just because she can do it alone doesn't mean she should have to. And he's like, Lorna comes to see Jubilee. Jubilee's like, come to salt the wound. So Lorna uses her power. She zaps a camera pointed right at Jubilee's cell. Then she releases her inhibitor collar. She's like, call it payback for reminding me what I'm in this for. It's like, I can buy you 5 minutes. How you use them, that's up to you. And she walks away. Jubilee like zaps a panel like on a wall. An alarm goes off. A bunch of armored guards go running. Jubilee calmly like walks up because the door is open too. She puts on her headphones. I guess they were nice enough to let her keep that. So she plays Veruca Salt's Volcano Girls. The guards approach her, and she just stands there in the hallway. There's an overhead shot that shows like at least 12, if not more, surrounding her on like three sides. The guards are just standing there. She puts down her sunglasses, blows a bubble, does some like backwards flip, unleashes her powers at them. But then it's like she might have hit the lights because she's using the darkness to her advantage. She's zapping the guards like one at a time. She's flipping around. She falls to the ground. One tries to like stun her, like hit her with like a stun baton. But then she like rolls out of way and ends up zapping like another guard that she knocked down. One like grabs her from behind and she gets her feet up against the wall. And apparently she can make the fireworks come out of her feet as well. I thought it was just her hands. I don't know. On Cable's plane, Roberto and Cable stand like over the radio. Come in, it's Jubilee. Over. Can anyone hear me? So she knows that they must have told her to channel. I don't know. Roberto runs her walkie-talkies. He asks, where is she? She says, because she's using one of the guards' radios. So I guess they can tune into the same frequency somehow. And, she's still fighting. Says she's fine. She broke out. But she's got additional cargo, and she's definitely going to need backup. And Cable's like, cargo? What cargo? Because she's talking about the kids. She starts zapping, or I guess she already zapped the other cells. They still have their collars on. She radios to land on the south deck and to pick up the kids. Sunspot's like, what about you? And she like shuts the door behind the kids. She's like, I'll be fine. Cable's like, look alive, team. So Warren guns the engines. Lots of smoke for some reason. Jubilee's like jumping around, blasting guards. And she's kind of lucky that X Factor aren't there because I don't know if she could take them all on. Obviously, she couldn't before. But then it's like, wait, she's got built-in roller skates in her boots? It's like, how's that work? She's zipping down the halls. Then she gets clotheslined by a guard because she's not paying attention. So she flips, lands on her back. Several guards approach her. They got like their rifles. But it's like, do the rifles even work? Because they're not shooting, but they shoot later. She notices like a little mutant girl crouched in a corner. So Jubilee, she powers up. She starts floating, and she like releases. And then they start running outside. The PA is like, rogue mutants on the loose, requesting X Factor immediately. So like, where is X Factor during all this? Well, alarms have been going off for a while. Guards like line up, but they still don't shoot yet. She unleashes more fireworks. Now they start shooting. So there's all the shooting going on outside. Plane arrives. It's getting shot at. Sunspot like comes in to blast some cannons on the ground, which is weird that they would have these, like all this weapon. Angel and Psylocke, they help out too. Val, Cooper, and Havoc run towards it as the plane starts to take off. Jubilee's still running from the guards. She grabs a parachute. She gets to the edge of the platform. But then the parachute is like blasted out of her hands by Val because she's got a gun. She's like, hold it right there. Havoc like holds up a collar. She's like, your choice. Jubilee like looks behind her, and Val says that she's like, it doesn't have to go this way. Jubilee rolls forward, and then she swats the collar out of Havoc's hand. She's like, sure doesn't. Puts on her glasses. Peace out, losers. She rolls forward, jumps, sends fireworks up in the air. She falls, and then Sunspot swoops down and catches her. She gives them a smooch. Havoc and Val just stand there, and he's like, that team's going to be a problem. Lorna comes up. She's like, what happened? Where's Jubilee? And Val's like, escaped. Any idea how that happened? It's like, wouldn't the footage see Lorna like before the cameras went out? So Val just like walks past her. Havoc gives Lorna a look, and then he walks past. So Val gives a press conference. X Factor's blatant acts of rebellion will not be tolerated, but rest assured, X Factor is here to protect humans and mutants. We will not rest until these fugitives are brought to justice. So there's pictures of them are shown and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. So X-Force was watching. They turn off the TV. Angel's like, a lot of heat on us. And Cable's like, congrats, team. Being national fugitives should really help us stay under the radar. Jubilee's like, we did what needed to be done. Psylocke's like, perhaps, but at what cost? And Jubilee's like, less than the cost of doing nothing. If we're not going to defend a world Apocalypse wants to destroy, what's the point of even fighting him? So she walks to the back of the plane. She asks the kids how they're holding up. Are they okay? Archangel's like, she's right, but Apocalypse is still out there. Where they're going, there's no place for a bunch of kids. And Kate was like, trust me, kids are tougher than you think. So we get a flashback to last episode when young Nathan puts his mechanical arm through the ring, and then a slot opens up, HoloCube pops up. Field computer operational. Greetings. Cyclops asks if everything's all right. Nathan's like, yeah, he's good. Scott says that they should probably get word to the rest of the Scani, let them know to make their way here. And I think it's way past due. You get to grill your mother and me. And the computer's like, I'm sorry, Nathan. I have to object. You must send the X-Men back to their time. He's like, no, not yet. I don't want them to go. I'm sorry. Apocalypse defeat here is only the beginning. Shadows gather in the past where history is still unwritten. If the X-Men do not return, there may be no future left to protect. And Cyclops like, what about protecting my son? Jean's like, you can't expect us to just leave him here. Mother Scotty's like, and yet you must. But you can take heart knowing he will be protected by people who care for him. And Scott's like, please, we just need more time. Mother Scotty's like, now we must be strong, Nathan, to do what they cannot. Such is the burden of destiny and children. So they hug. Nathan hugs Scott and Jean. Then he kind of pushes them back, raises his arm, computer, time slide the X-Men. Portal opens behind them. He's like, Scott's like, I love you, son. Jean's like, goodbye, Nathan. They get pulled back. Nathan sheds a tear. Then in the present, we see Cable sitting on a plane. That is the end of episode 202. So next we have Rise of Apocalypse Part 1. I'm going to try. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm going to try to do, maybe I'll do 203 and 204 if it's a part 1 and part 2. If it's more than that, well, we'll see. I'll try to do 2, see if I can get caught up since we don't have Spider-Noir anymore. But that is X-Men 97 or X-Force 97.
Okay, Silo's back. I love this show, and I don't know. I feel like I never see anyone talking about it. So whenever I, look around, look for news updates and anything like that, I never see anyone talking about it. And that seems to be the case with a lot of Apple shows. It's so weird, and I don't know why the reason for it. I mean, Rebecca Ferguson is great in this, and we had Tim Robbins on here. It's just such an amazing show, and it's based off of a bunch of novels, and I don't know. So I am so intrigued with what's going on here. The sort of the premises. These people, they live in a big silo. I forget. There's like how many people are in the silo? It's got to be like over like 100,000, 130. I forget how many it was, but there's over 100 levels, and then you got the different like classes, and there's some like shady stuff going on. There's a lot of question like what is happening, because like we found out it's like, oh, there's hidden cameras, and the main thing is like if you can't go outside, but if you ask to go or if you get in trouble, you get sent out to clean because there's a camera that's sitting out there. But then we've seen that people die when they go out there. So it's like, why would you clean when you're going to die? And then what we discovered is there's like camera footage in the breather mask when you go out there. So it appears that it's like blue skies and green, everything looks like super nice out there, birds flying, but it's all fake. What they end up doing is giving defective suits, so like you can't survive that long out there. And Rebecca Ferguson, Juliet, when she was sent out, they actually fixed her suit. She had some allies, whatever, and they did some repairs, so she actually was able to survive. And she ended up going over the little hill mound, and then she discovered, looks like there's other silos out there. So she goes to one, and there's a whole thing there, and there's like only one survivor, maybe a couple others, and what had happened, she finds out at this other silo is people were led to believe that, it was a lie, that it was safe to go out there. So there's like this mass exodus and they all end up dying. And then she was worried that her silo, they were going to do the same thing. So she makes her way back there. But then when she goes back there, because Bernard, it's still, Bernard's always like the bad guy, but it's like maybe he wasn't too bad, but he was kind of bad. Because, he knew some of the secrets and most of the secrets. But then he ends up getting toasted. What happened to Juliet is she got exposed to, there's this like forget gas. It makes you lose your memories. And so she has no idea what happened. And she doesn't know like her friends and that's what we're seeing. So when we watch this, it's not super clear. So like I said a little more than what we find out. So let's just get started. So at the beginning, it's a little confusing. It's like, wait, what's going on? Because we see Juliet, she like takes some vitamins from like a nurse or something like that. And then some guy, his name's Tony, he's at the door. He calls her Madam Mayor. So it's like, wait, Juliet's the mayor now? It's like, how did that happen? And so he has some food for her. And then Juliet's like, do I like mushroom? And the nurse is like, who doesn't like mushroom? And then Juliet's like, I know you're tired of me saying this, but, I'm going to. And the nurse is like, go ahead. And she's like, remember, the silo's at peace because of you. And she's like, because of me. And the nurse is like, because you came back. So she's like, see you in the morning. And Juliet seems confused. So she takes her food, she sits, and, she looks around the apartment. Later, she's brushing her teeth. And we see like a little scar kind of like on her clavicle and like some marks on her neck. And, she doesn't realize. It looks like, does she know that there's a camera behind a mirror? Because, it kind of pans out from like behind a mirror as she's brushing her teeth. So the next day she's like walking the stairs. She's told by, so it's Camille. So Camille's kind of like her aide. So Camille's Sim's wife. So she's like, she says that they need to go over details for the council meeting tomorrow. And they can do that after her weekly in the cafeteria. So then this she knows that Juliet hates doing this, but the people need to see her. And again, it's like, wait, how much time has passed? And, it's like, wait, how long has she been mayor? How is she the mayor? So, there's all the stuff we don't know. So did they cheer for her? She looks at Camille, who like nods to her, and Juliet like steps forward. Some young lady's like, there she is, Juliet. Then Camille tells her, she's like, don't worry about them. She's like, you're good. This other lady goes up to him like, ladies, and she's like, I have something that might interest you. So she has a sheriff's badge in her hand. It's like a deputy's badge. At first, it's like, what is she trying to deputize him? What's going on? So one's like, can I see it? But she closes her hand around it. She's like, you mean, can you touch it? No. So the lady on the right asks like, how much? And the first one's like, I was thinking more along the lines of a trade. So the middle one pulls something out from her back pocket. And she first, the first one is like, what is it? And she says, it's a toy. She's like, we think it belonged to either her or her brother. She's like, I know someone who got it from her father's place. So the lady accepts the trade and she puts the toy in her satchel. And she pauses and she kind of looks at Juliet, but keeps walking. And Juliet tells Camille that she wants to go. So not really sure about that. Maybe, where would the badge have been? Was the badge at her dad's? I don't know. So then we get the intro. Then it cuts to modern time. So we saw that at the end of the second season where like something is going on. We saw that the Tweety Bird Pez dispenser. So in modern times, Washington, D.C., we see this woman. At first, I thought it was Helen, the woman who went on a date with this congressman guy. It wasn't really a date. She met him. But it's not Helen. She goes, and it's weird because she like goes to a hotel and, because she went through a revolving door. She had her hair up in a cap. And then it almost looks like she comes out right away and her hair's down in the cap. But I watched it again. So some time had passed. She was inside the hotel for a little bit because there's like a different car parked out front. So then she goes to a train station, like kind of like the metro or whatever. And she sees this old dude on his phone. He kind of looks at her. And she starts getting suspicious and she walks like down, a little ways. The train pulls up, but, she doesn't get on right away. But then she sees the old dude. And he's like still looking at his phone. He's like, is he looking at her or is he not? And, he's on the train. So she gets off the train, because she went on and she got off. And then he doesn't look up as the train like passes her. So maybe she's just being paranoid. Then we see the congressman. So his name's Daniel Keene. He makes a phone call. He's sitting in his office. Dude tells him, he tells him, don't put me, put me on your do not call list and you have my vote next go around. But if you call again, I'll vote for whoever the fudge they run against you. And Daniel's like, you got it. And he types DNC on his computer. Later, he walks outside, like down this park path. He has two like iced teas. And then we see the woman. She's sitting there at a bench, and he says hi, and she's like, did you do what I said? He's like, what'd you say? And the woman's like, I said that if you didn't do what I said, I'd punch you in the throat. And Daniel's like, well, we certainly don't want that. He's like, yeah, I took 2 trains, 2 cabs, circled back. He's like, I got you a sweet tea, lots of ice. And she's like, yeah, they call it iced tea here. And he's like, well, I'm not from here. Neither are you. He's like, what's going on, Charles? I think he called her Charles, but her name's Charlotte. So he's like, you're off post, but you're not on leave. Shouldn't you be in uniform? And she's like, Charlotte's like, shouldn't you be on a phone sucking bleep for money? And he's like, wow. It's like, you've been in Navy too long. If mom and dad were alive right now, and then Charlotte's like, they'd be clawing frantically. And then he's like, to get out of their coffins. So they're brother and sister. So this is her sister. And then she's like, why do you think it was a date? He's like, what? Huh? And Charlotte's like, that reporter, Helen Drew. And he's like, how do you... And Charlotte's like, she said you gave her a Pez? And Daniel's like, I thought it was funny. And she's like, uh-huh. Was it? She also said you managed to work New Orleans into the conversation. Smooth. And Daniel's like, she was dismissive of the court. I thought I'd set her straight. New Orleans was a big deal. I was a big part of it. We did things no one had thought of before. And Charlotte's like, oh, that's right. I forgot. You invented drills. And then Daniel's like, how do you know what we said? And Charlotte's like, she's working on a story. I couldn't help her. I said she should talk to you. I told her you might not be completely useless if you got on Thurman's Iran committee. He like chuckles. He's like, everyone wants on that. And Charlotte's like, well, doesn't she owe you? And he's like, for what? And Charlotte's like, you said good things about her. He's like, I was running for Congress. She's a senator. We both represent the good people of the Peach State. Of course I said, good things about her, but I'd be surprised if she even knows my name. And Charlotte's like, why wouldn't she? And he's like, well, we have this thing in America. It's called the party system. We're not in the same one. And Charlotte's like, look, you should really try to get on that committee. And Daniel's like, what's going on? Have you been assigned to whatever we've got planned? Charlotte's like, even if I was, I couldn't tell you, civilian swine. And he's like, I was in the army. And she's like, you were an engineer. Daniel's like, and now I'm in Congress. I think I'm allowed to know if my little sister is going to bomb Iran. And then she's like, I got to go. And he's like, I did the whole switching cabs and train thing for 2 minutes with you. And Charlotte's like, well, I'm sorry I couldn't take a chance talking on the phone. He's like, well, tell me what the hell's going on. So Charlotte's like, I am telling you, get on that committee and tell the reporter what you can. So she gets up and walks away. He's like, you forgot something. And she like flips, he's like flipping her off behind her back, but without turning, she just continue walk. She like flips him off. So obviously they're brother and sister and they flip each other off. I guess that's their thing. Cut back to, and again, we're assuming this is a past, right? I always imagine like, what if there's like some weird thing and it's actually the present and it's, but obviously because of the Pez dispenser. So we know that's not the case. So Juliet's sleeping. She's dreaming, like the hatch opens. Bernard Holland, Tim Robbins, he's there in the suit and he's holding a gun. And he's like, after all I'd done, sacrificed to find out it never really mattered. And she's like, maybe not. And he's like, what do you mean? Then she, kind of moves forward towards him, but, she wakes up from her dream. Then Camille comes into her room and she asks what's wrong. Juliet is like concerned. She said she had a dream. She's outside the airlock with Bernard and so Camille nods to like the sheriff deputy that, she can go. So Camille tries stopping Juliet, but she's like, no, there's something I have to do. And Camille's like, well, what do you have to do? And Juliet's like, I don't know. I don't know, but he was right there. And Camille's like, okay, stop. Let's do the exercise. And Juliet's like, if only I could talk to Bernard. And Camille's like, that's not possible. She's like, I know. And then Camille's like, look at me, match my breathing, slow. So then there's like a close-up at event, and we see there's like footage from security monitor. So that's where the camera's at. The camera's like in the vent. Sims and the others are like in that big secret monitor room, and he's watching. And he's just like an expressionless creep. He's just, glaring at the screen. Later, Sims takes Julia to the airlock door. He's like, you were in there for 3 minutes. 3 minutes in a box of fire before the door would open and your friends could get you out. All oxygen was gone. 30 seconds in. Your suit, it wasn't a regular cleaning suit. It was insulated. It protected you. Bernard wasn't so lucky. The flames melted holes in his suit and the poison got in. And then we see like his body is like wrapped in plastic, like lying on a med bed or something like that. He's like, we couldn't take a chance with a farm burial. The stairs were evacuated. No one was allowed in the central shaft. So we see they carry his body like down while wearing hazmat suits. He's like, it took 6 porters 6 hours to get him down to the incinerator. And then we see his body's just like slammed down. Sims like pushes a button, send him into the incinerator. He's like, Bernard can't help you because I watched him burn. He's like, my wife says you remember something about him. There's something that you have to do. And she kind of pauses. She's like, no, I can't remember. He's like, well, I hope you get more of your memory back. I really do. I particularly hope you remember why you held my wife and son hostage at gunpoint. And she like looks at him and she's like, who are you? He like doesn't say anything. She's like, who are you? He's like, I'm Robert Sims. I'm the judge of the silo, which is what he always wanted. And it's like, oh, geez. And she's like, no. I know. She's like, you tell me that. I don't know you. I don't know you. I don't know anyone, right? I look at myself in the mirror. I don't even know who's looking back at me. And I thought maybe I had remembered something, but it's gone. And what? You're going to tell me it's a dream? It's a dream? It's like, I don't know. And then he just like walks away. It's like, that's kind of rude. Camille says to a deputy to pull up the previous file, and she's looking at it, and she says, she's going to need all of those removed. So I don't know if it's anything to do with Juliet. Sims walks in, and he like stands in the doorway because he's such a badass. He doesn't say anything. So they talk in the hall. Camille asks, what did he tell her? And he says like that Bernard died from the poison. And we see Bernard like burnt, lying on a bed. He's like trying to say something. So he's actually alive. Then Sims slams a plastic sheet over his face to suffocate him. And Camille nods in approval. And then he walks away again without saying anything. In the present, Daniel, the congressman, he goes to see Senator Thurman. And she's like, well, if it isn't the hero of New Orleans, there's this other lady in there. Like, is it her aide, whatever? And she's like, a hero of New Orleans. It's like, there were 500 Army engineers on that project. The senator's like, but Congressman Keene was key, right? You came up with the idea of replacing levees with tunnels, and you invented some kind of drill that didn't disturb the soil above, right? He's like, sounds like you read my campaign literature. And then the aide's like, your campaign was well written. So Thurman, senator, she's like, Anna is a writer in our family. And she's like, oh, not press releases, legislation. She's like, I write bills. Thurman, senator, she's like, she tidies them up. And Anna's like, if they start accepting them in crayon, you won't need me. So then senator's like, what can I do for you today, Congressman? He's like, well, is there going to be retaliation against Iran? Anna, she's like, they set off a dirty bomb in our nation's capital. Of course there's going to be a retaliation. And then Daniel, he's like, I'd like to be assigned to the Iran committee. Thurman's like, son, there's a waiting list for the waiting list. And he's like, I'd like to jump the line. And she's like, all right, give me your elevator pitch. And he's like, my sister Charlotte Keene is a naval aviator attached to the Nimitz. Any retaliatory mission is going to be carrier-based. The Nimitz is fresh off a refurb. Charlotte flies an F-35. Her squadron's flown several missions in theater. And Thurman's like, that's a good pitch. I'll try to get you on. He's like, your last campaign slogan was Yoda, don't try, do. And he like takes a seat. And she's like, you might want to dial it down a little bit, Congressman. He's like, and I would, except, Charlotte's my only family. And I'd just love to know what we're doing and why. She's like, and I will see what I can do. And she's like, Anna. So she's like kind of dismissing him. As Anna walks him out, he's like, I blew it, didn't I? And Anna's like, oh, well, she didn't throw anything, so not too bad. And she's like, thanks for saving New Orleans. Back in the office, Thurman's like, his sister, what's her name? And Anna's like, Charlotte Keene. She flies an F-35 off the Nimitz. Then in whatever silo time, Sims like, we're here today in the Mids cafeteria. Bernard Holland. I worked with Bernard for 10 years.
All the time, I never knew his mind. I knew the position and authority he claimed weren't in the pact, but Bernard assured me it was tradition, and had been since the beginning. My predecessors had gone along with it, and so did I. So did my wife Camille. So did we all. But when the rebellion came, we debated long and hard, my wife and I, and we felt, as so many of us did, that it was time for a change, for transparency, for truth. People applause. But truth does not come without costs. These last 3 months have been transformative in so many ways. So we can assume it's been 3 months, if not longer. Sheriff Paul Billings is rewriting portions of the pact that need revising. Most of the cameras Bernard installed throughout the silo have been removed, leaving only the ones necessary for public safety and security. And most important of all, there is now this council composed of level reps and department heads. More applause. Change has happened, and now it is my privilege to introduce the only person sent out to clean ever to return, and the only person to be sworn in while lying in a hospital bed, our mayor, Juliet Nichols. Some more applause, and she speaks quietly. She thanks him, and she's like, I now declare the silo's first council meeting open. She bangs a gavel. So, and the president, Daniel's on his laptop in his office. Lady comes in and says, he wasn't sure if she'd catch him. He's like, hey, did I get on the Iran committee? And she's like, the senator had me contact an old friend at JSOC. I asked him to track your sister. You're right. She is slated to fly in the Iran operation. And he's like, when? And she's like, tonight. So we see 4 planes fly by. The leader says climb to 50,000. There are 75 clicks to the target. Then zoom and boom back to Uncle Chester. The leader says, y'all seeing this cloud up ahead? Charles like, what the fudge is a cloud doing at 50,000 feet? So the leader kind of looks down and he's like, look at the Tomahawks. Like, what the fudge? He's like, we're 500 clicks from the target. So there's like some explosion. Something's going on below. He's like, Raider 4, I got something weird on my instrument panel. He's like, Raider 1, looks like oil. And then Raider 3, yeah, I've got it too. So Charlotte touches her panel and there's like some sludge inside. And then she's like, Raider 1, I'm armed. I was like, I can't fudge. So his panel display like cracks, and then one of the plane veers up and explodes. Charlotte curses, sees like another next to her like kind of losing control. It's kind of coming at her, so she veers, it explodes. And she's like, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. She's like, drone controls are going down. So Daniel, so he's walking with Anna, and he's brought to like a busy conference room. There's like 3 like news stations are on like the screens. One screen says Operation Righteous Vengeance, and strike targets Iranian nuclear facility. Then Anna calls him over to see Thurman, and she's like, that was my friend from JSOC. Your sister squadron wasn't hitting any of the targets they're talking about on TV. They were on a mission to a facility in the mountains. Charlotte's plane went down, but a rescue team out of the Turkmenistan picked her up. She's alive. And he's like, she's alive? So at the council meeting, Harwood, this dude, head of the mines, he stands up. He's like, I don't know what you want me. And Camille asks for a status report. He's like, we're miners. We're mining. Sheriff Billings says that there was an accident yesterday. He's like, I don't know how much of an accident it was, but yeah, there was a collapse in B-92, spur off the sub shaft. And he's like, he called it spur shaft David or something like that. He's like, 7 were trapped. We got them out. Am I done? And Camille's like, sorry, you don't know how much of an accident it was. And he's like, look, everyone says it's a mystery how old the silo is. Not to us. Number of shafts and tunnels we got, it's been here at least 300 years. 300 years of shafts and tunnels going this way and that, up and down, sideways, but never out. At least not more than 200 feet. Why? Because it's in the pact, which means you got 300 years of tunnels and shaft doubling back on each other. Add to that the effect of a bomb set off by the rebels. I'm not taking sides. That's what's done is done. I'm just stating a fact. So it's not an accident the tunnels collapse. It's a fudging miracle. It doesn't happen every week. And then Julie's like, why? And she like leans and asks like Billings and Camille. She's like, why does the pact limit how far out they can go? So Ed replies, he's like, yeah, Fudge knows. And Julie's like, okay, so maybe that's something that we can look into. Billings says that they will do that. So then this woman, Orla Kent, She's a shadow to the head of supply. She stands up. So she was asked to come represent Carla McLean today. And Ed groans and asks, he's like, how old are you? And Orla's like, 26. And Ed's like, I got boots older than that. And she turns and she's like, so do I, Mr. Hardwood. They're my Aunt Doreen's boots. She worked supply side 40 years, as did my mother and father. I grew up in the bays. Started pulling boxes on the High Line at 10. And Ed's like, yeah. All I'm saying is if I can come here, so should Carla. And Juliet's like distracted, like Sim watches her. And Carla says that she understands the importance, but she said on retiring and wanted Orla here since she'd be the one giving reports in the future. So Camille thanks her. And she says that because of the production shutdown during the rebellion, there were many shortages right after, but they worked with the suppliers. They released a prudent amount of reserves from critical supply, and the citizens reduced their usage. They are now back to pre-rebellion levels in all sectors. So bottom line, they're good in supply. And there's applause. Juliet has a flashback. And, there's a note. It says, you wanted the truth. The truth is I love you. Have no fear. They're good in supply. And she snaps out of it. And then Mr. Knox, he's like, Ed, I think I speak for everyone here. What the hell are you complaining about? I came up from 144. I had to be hauled up the gap by a couple of skinny bastards. I was sure they were going to drop my ass. Anyway, the generator is humming along just fine thanks to you, Juliet, Madam Mayor, and your fix from before. She just like nods. He's like, the only other thing to report has to do with what we call the digger void. When word of it got out, people, mostly young idiots, come down for look-see, and quite a few had to be rescued. Martha Walker has taken upon herself to seal off the access. Everything we could use from there was taken out a long time ago. Anyway, that's all I got. So Camille calls on the sheriff, and he's like, Sheriff Paul Billings, not much to report. I've been working on the pact. Crime is down. I think that's it. And Camille asks if there's any progress on their two fugitives. And I'm more just like, should she be asking this now? He's like, they've been sightings of Kennedy, but when we get there, he's gone, if he's there at all. Nothing on Lucas Kyle. We think he may have died in the rebellion, and his body was misidentified. We also found Rick Amundan 2 weeks ago. So Camille asked, what about the outsiders? And Billings like, they do their stunts, and by the time we get there, they've disappeared. And she's like, any idea who they are? He's like, other than followers of Kennedy? No, they wear masks. And then she's finally done asking these questions. But again, it's like, I don't know if she should be asking these questions in front of everyone, or maybe, there's probably some point to it. So I don't know. It just doesn't seem like you should be talking about outsiders and the fact that they're hiding and getting away with stuff. Not outsiders, but whatever. So as Juliet, Camille, and others walk down the stairs, Knox calls out to Madam Mayor. He says he just wanted to ask about her memory, anything coming back. So Camille answers for Juliet and says that, she's getting better every day. And Juliet's just like, yeah. And she turns to continue walking. And then Knox is like, so no more about what it was like outside? And she's like, no, just what we've seen. And he's like, do you remember me? Do you know who I am? And Camille's like, yeah, of course she does. So Juliet's like, you're head of mechanical, right? And Camille's like, that's right. And then he's like, kind of like stops walking and like sort of in shock, but then, he keeps going. So she doesn't even remember him. So Harwood and another are talking about Harwood's daughter, because she's up in supply or something like that. And then Harwood, he says that she'll be back in mines, and she doesn't much like working for a teenager. Orla's behind them and says, like, your daughter was the same age I am, Mr. Harwood, when she became a shadow to the head of supply. And he's like, oh, I know that. It's just, I know what Glenda's capable of. And she's like, what is she capable of, Mr. Harwood? And he like kind of grabs her arm hard. He's like, excuse me, what? She's like, just a question. She's like, I got another. And she grabs his arm harder. It's like, when was the last time you swung a pick or shoveled one? See, I still haul crates. And then sarcastically, he's like, ow, you're hurting me. So Billings comes up as they're like staring at each other. And he's like, please don't tell me we have a problem first day at a council. And he's like, not at all. And then Harwood continues walking. Billings asks her, like, what was that about? And she pauses and she thinks, she's like, I guess some people just don't like change. And we see like people are having to get lowered like on swings over like the gap in the stairs. Camille says to Juliet that they're making progress, and she's like, you'll notice several other workarounds violate certain rules of the pact, but those violations were deemed necessary due to present circumstances, and several of those rules are being considered for possible permanent change. She's like, is that right, Sheriff? And he's like, yep. So they go up some stairs to like a different level. Shirley's there and looks at Juliet. Knox is like still behind them, and it's like, Shirley is in charge of reconstruction. You remember Shirley, right? And Camille tells Juliet, just go ahead. And she's like, yeah, you were at my first meet and greet in the cafeteria, right? And she's like, that's right, your first day out of hospital. And Camille said that. And Shirley just like stares at Juliet. And she's like, well, I'm sorry it's taken me this long to get down here and see what you've been doing. So I just want to say thank you for all the hard work. Shirley's like, better get back to work. And Juliet's like, of course. Yeah. So then Shirley walks past Knox, and Juliet just like stands on a platform kind of looking down. And she's like, is that where my dad died? And it's like very cold and unfeeling. And Knox kind of looks at her. He's like, Juliet's like, I heard that his sacrifice guaranteed the success of the rebellion. So then Knox, Camille, and like one deputy dude, Hank, with the long-haired deputy, are there. Knox says there wasn't supposed to be any sacrifice. And Hank's like, we made sure the stairs were empty, but the device was supposed to go off on a timer. But we lost the timer, and then Dr. P, he insisted on staying. And Juliet's like, sorry, what's your name? And he's like, I'm Hank, ma'am, Deputy Hank Murphy. And she's like, Deputy Hank, I really don't blame anyone. And Camille's like, except for Bernard, of course. So it's like they wanted to really set up Bernard to be like the bad guy. And Juliet's like, yeah, of course, Bernard. And then Camille's like, well, lunch is waiting. So it's like clear that, Camille and Bernard Juliet's just like a puppet. And it's kind of annoying. So several people with like masks run up the stairs. They put out a banner. We'll see it later. Elsewhere in like the upper halls by the mayor's office, maybe there's several people like running with like pipes and stuff. There's a guard walking there and tries fighting them all. He manages to whack the forearm of lady with his baton, and she like screams out. Two others pin him against the wall, and they hold like a knife to his throat. And then two others like whack a door, and they kick it open. In the cafeteria, Shirley says to Knox that she doesn't know how he can be like that. He's like, be like what? And Shirley's like, yes, madam, no, madam. She's like, it's BS. And he's like, Cheryl, I don't know what I'm meant to do. Rub it in her face that she doesn't remember us. And she's like, her name is Jules. She's a mechanical. She wouldn't be caught dead in a dress for fudge's sake. So Camille says that it's going to take more time. He's like, we can't force it. And Cheryl's like, she's been saying that for 3 months now. She's not coming back. And Hank's like, she's on her way over now. She's like, Shirley, can I talk to you for a moment? Yeah? And Cheryl's like, sure. So Juliet's like, so Camille told me that we used to be friends. We were good friends, right? And Cheryl's like, that's one way of putting it. So Juliet's like, okay, well, look, I don't know who to talk to right now, and I just need. I had a memory, right? I don't know if it was a dream, and I'm outside the airlock with Bernard, right? And I get this like overwhelming feeling like there's something I have to do, and I don't know what, but I know Bernard. He would have known what it was, and I think what I'm trying to ask you is, did I say anything to you about what I'm talking about? And she's like, no. And Shirley just like walks away towards Knox, and she's like almost in tears, and she's like, is she looking at me? And he's like, no, she's walking away. And then Shirley puts her head on his shoulder and like kind of cries. So she's sad because Juliet doesn't remember anything. But it's the fact that Juliet was trying to confide to her because she doesn't know who to talk to. So Camille asks Juliet if all's good, and then Orla comes up, and she's like, yes, there's a problem, and I was told I could only talk about it to 2 people, the head of supply and, well, you, ma'am. So Juliet's like, okay. So Juliet excused herself from Camille's side, and she's like, critical supply, all the things that were loaded in the silo when it was built, light bulbs, computers, all that. Well, a lot of things have gone missing, maybe stolen. And Billing walks up, and Juliet's like, really? And Orla's like, but I think it might be going through construction. And Billings like, Madam Mayor? And she's like, yeah. He's like, we have a situation. So they walk up the stairs, and he's like, security says attackers were wearing masks and hoods. Camille's like, what were they doing in IT? And Billings like, they took a helmet from a suit room. And Juliet's like, why? Why would they take a helmet? So Billings points to the banner. And it's pretty big. It's like a colored drawing of like the landscape, the hill, the tree, blue sky, and there's text. It says, this is the truth. The display is a lie. So these are people that think it's like the outside is a paradise and that they're being trapped in there. And I don't understand it. It's like, if people think that it's safe to go out there, let a couple go out. And then they'll die. You don't want to send all, because too many people might try to go out. But send a couple out, send a handful out. They'll go out there and they'll see that the display is not a lie. I mean, the display in the helmet is a lie because it makes you think that. I don't understand the whole point. So Juliet's like staring as they pull the banner up, and then she remembers being outside and seeing like the blue sky and the birds flying, and she's like, the display is a lie. And then the scene like flickers, desolate fields with the city in the background. And Camille says her name, and Juliet says, she's like, I'm good. So Camille tells Billing to find Kennedy, and he says they'll keep looking. And she says maybe if he grabs one of his followers. So he's like, good idea. And Juliet just like stares like where the banner was. Back in the present, Daniel's in a hurry. His phone rings. It's Anna. It's like, your sister was shipped out of Landstuhl 12 hours ago. He's like, yeah. She's going to land at St. Andrews in 10 minutes. I'm meeting her at Walter Reed. And Anna's like, she's not going to Walter Reed. He's like, what? So Anna's like, I'm sure you heard that her body is fine, but she has a TBI, traumatic brain injury. Yeah. He's like, I know, but. And then Anna's like, okay, so my mother's pulled some strings. She's being sent to Heidi Stenson Clinic in Fairfax. It's like, this is the best place for TBI in the country, in the world. The name should tell you why. And he's like, oh, Stenson. And she's like, right, Heidi Stenson was his mother. She had Alzheimer's, and he sunk a lot into the facility. At the facility, he shows ID at the desk. He's taking to see his sister. She's like lying awake in a bed. He says that, she's looked better, and she like stares at him. She's confused, and she's like, who are you? So does this have anything to do with like the memory gas in the silo? And who was like, why were they making it? I don't know. In the silo, in the observation room, a dude at the council says that they're still trying to track the outsiders. Unfortunately, they're smart. When they split up, they go to places with no cameras, but they do have something. So he puts up footage from the hallway fight, and this one lady is like, it might have broken her wrist when she got hit by the guard. So she's like, we're looking for a woman with a bandaged right arm. In the upstairs cafeteria, Camille asks Juliet, she's like, what is it? Because she paused and she looks at the display outside, and she's like, Juliet's like, how did I get in? And Camille's like, I don't understand. What do you? And Juliet's like, how did I get through the doors? How did I get in? And she's like, well, Bernard opened them. And she's like, no. You said that, but I couldn't have known that he was going to do that. So how? I would have had a plan, right? I would have had something, right? I had something in my hand. I had a crowbar, and that's what I used to try to open the doors. So she's like remembering stuff. And Camille's like, Juliet? It's like, hey, look at me. And she's like, I'm all right. And Camille's like, Juliet, listen. Juliet's like, I went into a different place. And Camille's like, yes, we know this. She's like, I think I went to another silo. And Camille's like, okay, I think it's time you watched it again. So in a room like Juliet's apartment, maybe, Camille calls up a file on the computer, and she's like, so Bernard put cameras in the cleaning helmets, but he didn't show anyone. And she's like, I know, you told me, many times. So there's footage, walking towards the bunker door. She's like, you remember now? You went outside, you made your way to that refuge hut. You stayed in there. And Juliet's like, I stayed in there until I was strong enough to come back. And there was a suit in there and a helmet, and the suit was insulated to resist flames. And Camille's like, thank the founders. And Juliet's like, thank the founders. So they want Juliet to think that she went out there and she's found a little hut and stayed in there until she came back. So they don't want her to know that she was in another silo. in supply, like this big barrel is moved. Dude asks, what was that? And Orla's like, IT said we're low in vitamin D, so please ship 2 barrels of D plus to water filtration. And the guy's like, how much do they weigh? And she's like, stupid amount. It's like, why they have 3 teams switching off? And he's like, they use sleds? And she's like, they'd have to. And then he's like, that means they can only go at night. They say how long it'd take? And she's like, 3 days. He's like, well, I have nothing to complain about. She's like, yet, somehow you will. So dude's like, he's been like bouncing a ball for dogs. I don't know if there's something up with that, but no. And he's like, how was the council? And she's like, it was fine, though I had a couple run-ins with Harwood. And the dude's like, what are Richard? And she's like, clearly not happy with me taking his daughter's job. And he knows I'm investigating her. And, she must have told him. So the dude's like, even with everything you have on your plate, you seem lighter than you have in weeks. So Orla's like, I think it was seeing the mayor. Something about her just made me feel like it's going to be okay. Like, I'm going to take a look around construction. I saw something at the Gap, gave me an idea how, she might be moving stuff. And he's like, how? She's like, I'll tell you later if I'm right. Camille opens the vault door, the one like secret place. The computer's like, how was she then? And Camille's like, because remember, Camille's the only one that's allowed in to talk to the computer. So Camille's like, she seemed less agitated. I think she's fully accepted the memory of the refuge hut as real. She's like, you're still concerned? And the computer's like, she has no memories for 3 months other than those that you've given her. And now this. And she's like, the order says the memory suppression drugs aren't perfect and that some memories will return. Computer's like, we're outside the order now. This isn't her recalling a dislike for mushrooms. This is her being convinced there's something she has to do that she just can't remember. That worries me. Double the dosage. And Camille nods. So the nurse gives Juliet her vitamins, and she asks, how the first meeting in council was. Juliet says, she has nothing to compare it to. The nurse says that she hopes she sleeps better tonight, and she leaves. Her food gets delivered, and the dude's like, special chowder. So she, and he's like, if you don't like it, let me know, and I'll get you like things like chicken noodle or something like that. So she sits to eat. She smells it a few times. And because that's the thing, she doesn't like mushrooms, but she doesn't remember that she doesn't like mushrooms. So she's eating it. So she, smells her food. She takes a bite and then she dumps it in the sink right away, kind of like disgusted. But then there's like this big capsule in the soup. So she rinses it and there's a note inside. She puts the bowl upside down on a plate and she takes it to the delivery guy, Tony. And because, he said that, he'd get her something else. And he's like, that bad? And she's like, it wasn't great. She says she's good when he says he'll get the other stuff. And then he's like, why is the bowl upside down? And she says that that's just to tell them that she didn't like it. So she goes back and she looks at the note. She gets a match to burn it. The note says, want to know the truth? Leave your bowl upside down. Go to the marketplace. Burn this. That's the end of the first episode. So who sent her that? We don't know. But it's crazy that they're messing with her memory like that. It's just, I don't like it. We'll see what happens next.
And now, the movie feature, Evil Dead Burn. Oh my goodness. I really enjoyed this movie. I am a big fan, obviously, like many people, I'm a big fan of Evil Dead. Now, I saw Evil Dead 2 first. That was the first movie I saw as a kid. And then it was later I saw Evil Dead 1. And I was actually kind of confused. I was like, this is like the same movie, but there's more people. Like, what's going on? And it was like the same but different. So it was always weird that it was Evil Dead 2, even though it was like the first. So it wasn't like a sequel, necessarily like a direct sequel, because it was like the same thing. But anyways. I've loved the movies. Obviously, Bruce Campbell is awesome. Briscoe County, jack of all trades. Just watch everything that he did. Then it's so excited. I got to interview him for Ash versus Evil Dead, right? That was a show on Starz. It's unfortunate that he is no longer, doesn't want to do the movies anymore, but he's still a producer on that, so he's still involved. It's also interesting when you look like on Wikipedia, they say that this is the 6th installment of the franchise. And yeah, that's true, but it is, but it's not, but it is. Because, you got The Evil Dead. You got Evil Dead 2. You got Army of Darkness. And then we have Evil Dead. I don't know if it was The Evil Dead with 2013 maybe. And then we had Evil Dead Rise. And now we got Evil Dead Burn. And then what's the other one? Evil Dead... Is it Wake? Wrath. Evil Dead Wrath. So that's going to be out... that's 2028. At first I was thinking, it's like, oh, it's going to be next year. And that's weird because it's a prequel to The Evil Dead. So wait, it's a prequel to, which Evil Dead is it? I guess I think it's a prequel to the original one because it's supposed to have like a 70s vibe to it. So they're doing all sorts of things, whatever, timeline and all that. So this was directed by Sebastian Vanecek, who he did Infested 2023. I haven't seen that. Maybe I should see that. So what's interesting about this movie is it does have some interesting connections to Evil Dead Rise. Because the way it starts off, there's two dudes like fishing, and that's the same lake that was in Evil Dead Rise at the beginning. The thing that the deadite or whatever that attacks them was Jessica from the last movie. So that's like it's you don't have to have seen the other movie, but it does kind of enhance things a bit. So I don't know how much of this to say about the movie. Basically, what happens is, so we have this stuff happens at the lake, and then Jessica, she's going to target this other guy, Will, and it turned out that Will's brother is living at the family's like lake house, which is like kind of dilapidated and everything, and had been like studying their grandfather's research stuff about deadites and whatever, the Nocturum Damonto or whatever, and so that's how things are all connected. So then we see like a birthday party. So Will's wife Will and Alice, they work at it like a club. Will works a club, and so Will's brother Joseph and his girlfriend, they are celebrating stuff like that. And Will's kind of a jerk. He's got a temper. Will ends up dying by the let's just say he dies, the deadite Jessica, whatever, and that kind of puts everything in motion. So now the family's kind of targeted in a way. And there's a reason why, and it has to do with stuff that Joseph's doing with the research, the grandfather stuff and everything like that. So all of this is just like this big mess and everything. Now, when you watch this, it's there's in the beginning when I actually saw some like early reviews, which I shouldn't have done that, but I saw some people saying like, oh, it's just violent, and they were really like critiquing it. Because like these things like popped up on Facebook, and I was like, it's like, wait, people don't like this, but it has a decent Rotten Tomatoes score, and I feel like I'm just like all over the place, so I apologize. But what I want to say about this is when it starts off, it's not super. Maybe it's a little violent. It's not super violent in the beginning, but as the heart of it, and you see kind of in the one trailer where there's this tension between this family, and it's like, oh my gosh, this family is whacked because they lost their beloved son, Will, and his wife. She's French. They're not too keen on her, which is really sucks. So because she goes, she's a mess. Her husband died, even though there's like some problems between the two of them because Will is like such a jerk, but the brother is cool, the brother and his wife. So they go to the funeral, and there's just like all this tension, and the dad is just like so intense because then they go to the lake house. They're going to stay there even though the place is kind of nasty,
and it's because Joseph has just kind of let it run down a bit. And like when they're gonna have dinner, and you see this in the trailer. It's like Joseph's about to sit down, and Dad's like, no. It's like, that's Will's seat, and just like all this stuff. So there's a lot throughout the movie where there's just like this like tension, this dread, this vibe. And part of it is just like, it almost makes you feel a little uncomfortable, but it's not necessarily like gruesome stuff that's making you feel uncomfortable. But believe me, there will be some stuff. There could be some stuff that, depending on how you handle, there's certain things that bother me. Like if something, like a lot of times if there's anything, there wasn't anything with this, but like for me, I have issues with teeth because I like busted my front tooth when I was a kid. If there's anything like with the knee or with the, because I messed up my knee in football. So, I'm kind of sensitive to certain stuff when it comes, it's like, it's all fake and everything like that. But there are some violent things that are pretty gruesome. And I feel like, not that they're like pushing the envelope or anything like that, but there's like some stuff that's just like, holy crap. And things just get nasty. There's one thing that the dad does that, I cannot stand. I hate what he did. He does, and he's just like, you can tell, or I mean, like there's something up with him. But like when they're sitting at a table, he's like, he's like reaching for like the corkscrew, and they're like, I think it was either Alice or Joseph's wife. They kind of notice. They're like, oh, you don't need that. They're like, let's take the knife away. And so there's just like all this stuff that's going on, and then when like things. So the other thing, and I could see this easily being a complaint, because the movie is 109 minutes. In some ways, it kind of feels like things start up pretty quickly. Once like the poop hits the fan. But in other way, it's like, we don't need, we have everything's like laid out. We have the slight connection to the last movie, so we know about the deadite, in the lake, and we see it affect Will, and we know there's stuff with the grandfather's, his research and everything. So all this stuff is explained, and we get a good sense of who the people are. We know that Joseph's kind of a slacker, with his, and or not really slacker, but he's focusing on his research because he wants to be a writer. And, we know that there is some stuff going on with Alice and Will before he died. And we know the parents are very intense. And then the mom's mom is also there, and she's a little out of it and everything. But things just all of a sudden, it kicks in. And I think that's okay. Because like I said before, a lot of times people complain about, how things can be too long, can drag on. So they don't mess around. They just start they get to it. And when things happen, it's not like it's over right away. A lot of times you're like, okay, that character's dead. Not necessarily, because they're probably going to come back. And even if you think you took them out, they might just come back again. So it just, in a lot of ways, it just, holy crap, it's like, this is never ending. It keeps going. And things get crazy. I think back to, I was meaning to watch that first trailer again. The first one, it was a Red Band trailer. And I was like, why is this a Red Band trailer? And you just see like this woman, I wasn't even sure who it was. I had no idea what was going on. She's like crawling on the floor, and there's like all this stuff, like she's like trying to get away from something. And there's like just this thud, like banging stuff, like flying behind her. And like that moment, it's like, it's crazy, because things just all of a sudden like, I'm like in awe of this movie. And, I don't want to say, this is not like a perfect movie or the best thing ever made, but there's something about it. I don't know what it is. It just, I feel like it just really set everything up, and it just gets really crazy and tense. And it doesn't get like over the top or anything like that, but it's just, there's just like nastiness from the deadites, the evil, and they're not like the weird, wacky, goofy, dead by dawn. It's not like, past stuff like that. I saw, I think it was on Facebook, it might have been Brett Anderson. He said he was going to see it, and someone's like, "Oh, if Bruce Campbell's not in it, then he's like, I'm an Evil Dead purist. If Bruce Campbell's not in it, then that's not for me," or something like that. And I totally get that, but I don't agree with that, and I think the main reason why I'm fine with that is because Bruce Campbell, after finishing off the TV series, he's like, I'm done. He's like, we've completed Ash's story, and he, with all the stuff, the action, the stunts, whatever that Bruce Campbell's had to do, he's like, yeah, I don't need to do this anymore. And I also agree that, like, if you had Ash involved, that makes things a little goofier, and that's not a bad thing. But when you look at, like, maybe I should go back and watch the 2000, I think, or 2013 Evil Dead. That one was a little more serious. And Evil Dead Rise and Evil Dead Burn, they're definitely more serious. There's not any weird, any jokey stuff. So that's fine. That's the thing. And also, Bruce Campbell is involved. He's a producer. What does exactly that mean? I always question, how involved is he? Is it just, slapping his name on there just as a common courtesy, or is he actually, contributing anything? I don't know. But I do have to say that I can appreciate, I respect his decision. It's not like the studio decides to reboot it and they just like kind of edge him out. He's like, yeah, I'm done with it. And seeing like the last movie and this movie, they're kind of different and everything, but at the essence, it's still Evil Dead, and that's what I can appreciate. And I never would have thought, because like I avoided seeing the 2013 one for a while, because I was like, this isn't Evil Dead. I was one of those people where I was like, I'm not going to watch this. I ended up watching it. I was like, you know what? That wasn't that bad. And I was like, yeah, that was decent. And then Evil Dead Rise, not directed by Sam Raimi or anything like that. And I can appreciate that. They did a good job. So I think it's interesting to, see like new, whether it's younger creators working on it, because Sam Raimi, he hired that Sebastian, the director, to because he was impressed with what he did with Infested, and they brought him in, and Bruce Campbell and Lee Cronin, they were executive producers. So, Lee Cronin was involved as well. So I think it was, I was impressed with it, and I just really enjoyed it. And does it pass the Steelbook test? Heck yeah. I bought the Steelbook. It was like 2 a.m. I kept checking, because I saw a Steelbook listed, and it's like, the link wasn't live yet, and I was like, I need to get this, and because it was a link to Walmart, which I'll buy at Walmart if I have to. It's not my number one choice, but it's like not available to ship. So I was like, did it sell out right away? Because with Steelbooks, you never know. A lot of times it's weird. A lot of times they're widely available. A lot of times they might sell out right away. So I was like, I need to see this. I need to get it. And then I finally saw that it was available, and I ordered it. So I'm looking forward to seeing this again. I mean, if I wasn't so busy like watching stuff for the this podcast, I would go and see it again, because it's just I enjoyed it, and I don't know what it is. Let's just go to critics, Rotten Tomato. Unfortunately, the score has been dropping, and the thing is, this is not going to be a movie for everyone. I can easily say, without having read these little snippets, I know there's going to be some people that I know what they're going to complain about. They're going to say it's too violent. They're going to say that it was too fast paced or whatever. That all this, the characters weren't developed. I think they were. And let's see what it. So, a critic score is at a 72%. Because I saw, I think IGN. I don't remember what they gave it. If it was like a 6 or something, they gave it a decent. I was okay, but then I saw a couple that were like really low. I'm like, oh man, is this not going to be good? Because I want it to be really good. And then it was, I think, like at a 79% on Thursday, and it's been kind of dipping a little bit as more people watch it. So the popcorn meter is 81%. So people going to watch it are enjoying it. We'll see if there's a cinema score we can talk about. A critic's consensus: Sebastian Vanacek spills guts with glory in this latest installment of Evil Dead, featuring the meanest, nastiest, and ickiest chapter that is sure to leave fans with a wickedly satisfying burn for more. Okay, so New York Magazine, Vulture, says, if you need horror to emotionally earn its nastiness when dealing with a theme as important as domestic violence, you'll find it as soulless as the deadites that Alice must destroy to claw her way towards an uneasy survival. Yeah, okay. So, and then Sight and Sound. Everything in Evil, that one wasn't I always get mixed up with the green splat, so that's not good, because this next one's a tomato. This is from Sight and Sound. Everything an Evil Dead fan could want and need. DP Philip Lorenzo's restless, canted camera work, a tool shed of domestic weapons, and shrill ordeals always bordering on the comic is present and correct, making it a welcome new member of the family. See, okay, so just looking at those two right there. So this Angelica person from Vulture, New York Magazine, I don't know what her story is. And this is why I always say when you look at reviews, when you read reviews, it's really important if you know who is doing the review. What do they like? What do they not like? I don't know if Angelica likes horror movies. I don't know, we're here if there's some stuff about domestic violence. Domestic violence is not something to take lightly. And maybe someone close to her or herself, maybe someone was involved with that. And so that's going to, make you not appreciate things. I don't know. And then Anton from Sight and Sound, it sounds like he is an Evil Dead fan. Evil Dead is not going to be for everyone. And I can totally accept that. I don't care because I love it, and that's what I care about. But I can totally get that not everyone is going to appreciate it. So let's see, what else do we have? The Travers Take gave it a 3 out of 4. This baby will scare the bejesus out of you, relentlessly and mercilessly, but that's all there is. Okay. Lee from Drum Dums gave it an 8.5 out of 10. It keeps the gruesome and violent vibe of the previous two films with a dark and heavy family dynamic mixed in. Sebastian Vanacek's direction is extremely fun to watch as well. See, and that's what I say. It's uncomfortable. You just the stuff going on in the family is it's kind of icky, and it's a different icky than watching the violence, guts spill out, whatever. So there we go. 2.5 out of 5, a C. The gore, however, is something out of this world. Oh, wait. So Evil Dead Burn by Sebastian Vanacek may be the weakest of them all, and despite the hot title, it provides only a few flames throughout. The gore, however, is something out of this world. So that's from Nerd Spin, Zofia. Okay, I don't know. Juzo gave it a 4 out of 5. It was good. That's all I'll say. But a little too much slapstick humor in the middle of horror scenes. It kind of kills the. Was there slapstick horror? Not a whole lot. I don't think so. Action-packed, must-see horror film. Kevin. Zoe V. Love the gore and how it starts off fast and doesn't drag on. However, I didn't really like the fact that the book of it. Okay, I'm not going to click to see more. MV and NY, great movie, worth the watch. Cinephile Pats, the family reunion from hell setup brings some fresh tension, and the practical effects and intense sequences hit hard. Hannah says, scary and very good acting. So see, there you go. Now what about the cinema score? Let's see. So 72% of 128 critics gave it a positive review. Average rating 6.3 out of 10. Metacritic gave a weighted average 55 out of 100 based off of 34 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. On Allocine, I've never heard of that. I don't even know what that is. What is Allocine? It's a French thing, maybe? The film received an average rating of 3.5 out of 5 based on 30 reviews from French critics. Okay. IndieWire, Allison Foreman commended the film for expanding the possibilities of the franchise, writing that Vanacek, I don't know if that's how you say his name, and I apologize, doesn't reinvent Evil Dead, but he does reinvent how an Evil Dead movie can feel. Yes. Peter DeBruge, I don't know if this is, of Variety, described the film as, quote, an effective piece of gross art guignol. Oh, that's a main character of a French puppet show? What? Praising its practical effects and arguing that it should appeal to fans of the franchise visceral horror. Oh, and then RogerEbert.com's Brian Tallarico criticized the film's excessive brutality and visual style, describing it as, quote, for completists only. Oh, what? You don't want... Okay, Evil Dead. Do you not know anything about Evil Dead? You don't want it to be violent? Oh my gosh, these movies are crazy. And next we get a prequel, so I'm excited. I don't know. I mean, and I don't know if it's worth me reading all this other stuff, but I don't just want it because I'm just gonna say I love it. So I'm just trying to, in case you haven't seen it yet, if you're like, should I see it? Here, you're hearing the other thoughts, and I think that that's the important thing that you have to do is don't just base it off of one person's decision. If you are listening to the show, you know what I like, you know what I don't like. So when I say I like something or don't like it, you can say it. If I say, I don't know about Game of Thrones or whatever, that's because I don't like the old-timey stuff. I'm not saying it's not good or anything. It's just not my cup of tea. I enjoyed House of Dragons season 1, but I just never got around to season 2. So I really think it's important, and this is what happened with Supergirl. A lot of people jumped on top of it saying they didn't like it. But then like later I started seeing people like that wasn't bad. I had fun with it. So you take everything with a grain of salt and just, make your own choices. But like I said, if you're just reading random reviews, you got to know who is doing the review. Because like if I had to review a baseball game, I might be like, I don't know what that, baseball's not my thing. Watching baseball is a little long sometimes. So I really, and I would hope that the different outlets, unless it's like a last minute where someone has to cancel, someone can't make it, it's like you don't have someone review science fiction if they can't stand science fiction. That's just, So I thought I loved it, and it was gruesome. I was gonna say it's horrible, but it's horrible in a good way. That's how it's supposed to be. So if you like anything Evil Dead, you should definitely check it out. But just be prepared. It is gruesome, but it's amazing, just like what they can do and how they can just create this vibe, and it's just like oof, whew. So that is going to be it. That was Evil Dead Burn. You watch that and be thankful that your life is nowhere near anything like that. 'Cause things aren't that bad. But thank you for listening. That is going to be it for this week. So big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to that secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes
ish of podcasts, entertainment every single week. I've done some Off My Minds lately. I might have to fall back to a comic. We'll see. But again, let me know if there's anything you want to hear about, because I always question: do people like hearing about the old comics, and do they want the weird and wacky? Do they want regular? We'll see. So I don't know. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. That is ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. What are we going to have next week? See, so this is going to be a challenge for me. Next week is the Odyssey. I don't know if there are any early reviews. There's got to be, right? Let's see. Because didn't people see it already? Critics. And no scores they must be under embargo. Just what I will say right now, I should have mentioned this earlier, but apparently there are racist people who are upset that Lupita Nyong'o is playing Helena Troy because she's black, even though this is a work of fiction, it's fantasy, and it's based off a book. It's not like so people are just upset about different things, whatever. And I think there's some people that are upset that they didn't get invited to screenings because they're not from like a big major outlet. So I talked about that last week. And what some people are doing, they are stealing other people's. They're like, yeah, I went to screening. It sucked. It was horrible. This was bad and whatever like that. And what they're doing is, like someone, they posted a picture of them holding the pass to see the movie. And someone else took that picture and they're like, look, I went and saw the movie. And one person's like, that's literally my hand with like a freckle on my thumb or a birth or whatever. And they're taking other people's pictures and claiming that they were there, just so they can say they literally have not watched the movie and they're saying that it was bad or they hated it. I saw one post, someone was commenting on John, the movie, they got all this budget, whatever like that, and John Bernthal had a horrible bald cap. They didn't even try blending it in or anything like that. And they showed a picture. And so this person John Bernthal actually shaved his head for the movie. So that's not a bald cap. That's actually his head. So, yeah. So be aware of that there may be some negative reviews. There's probably going to be people trying to review bomb it. And if it's because of Lupita, she's an amazing actor. She's great. And I cannot stand, and I'm going to assume no one listening is racist like that, because I just don't understand when people just like go out of their. I don't understand a review bombing thing, especially if it's something like that. If it's racist or if it's Snyder Army, I don't understand people like, or if it's like a strong one like Brie Larson. I don't understand the review bombing. So keep that in mind when you see reviews. I am going to be honest, I don't like the old-timey stuff, but I did enjoy Death of Robin Hood. This is Christopher Nolan. We got a bunch of so many amazing actors. It's like, come on. How can this not be anything but another epic, right? I mean, I'm not just going to go in assuming that. I'm going to be, as critical as I am, but it's I'm sure it's going to be amazing. So we have that. We will have more Silo, more X-Men 97, more Adventures of Superman, and that'll be it. So thank you for listening. I hope you're doing well. Hope your summer is going well. Hope you're not too hot or too cold or too bored or too anything. Hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you remember, be good to each other.